post-lunch session is always, bit sleepy. But today I think I can vouch for that it's going to be a very interesting session, because now we'll have the panel discussion, and we have a very eminent, well-known, respected speakers on the dais today. So I'm assuming this post-lunch session should be very interactive and very enjoying in the terms of learning. I would request Chairman of Bangalore branch to escort the dignitaries onto the dais. Firstly, CA Shankar sir, then CA Venkataramani sir, CA Ramasubramanian sir, CA Sanjay and Dhariwal sir, and request our program coordinator as well to join us. I request the chairman to hand over the floor. Okay. I request CA Saiprasad to please join us on the dais. Generally, I mean, as a practice, you would have seen that I introduce most of the speakers, but today's session, all are so eminent that they don't need any introduction, actually. So I wouldn't take any time in introducing them. So without that, Chairman, do you want to? It's fine, we'll go ahead. Yes, sir. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you for making it, and definitely we are hoping for the enriching session going forward. Yeah. I request Sanjay sir to take over the dais.
Very good afternoon. Dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, friends along. It's always a pleasure to have the stalwarts here, and it's much more pleasurable when you do not know anything and you have to just shoot the questions. So it is always an easy job for me, given across by the Institute from the last 20 years, that Sanjay, you can ask the questions, because we know the people who are coming here to answer would always answer it with great authority, as well as I'm sure everybody would be convinced. Because if I had to answer the questions, I'm sure most of you go back and say that, what did Sanjay say? Is it liable or not liable? So that's the reason they stopped me from presenting papers, and they said, you just ask questions. And the topic is a simple topic. It's search and seizures. So we are going to deal with the income tax law, we're going to deal with the GST law also. I've got three learned panelists with me. SRS sir is one person with whom I have been seeing him as a student, admiring him whenever I used to go to meet Ramasubramanian, my close friend, to his office. We used to wonder that how can a man be so brilliant in any field? Let it be taxes, direct taxes, indirect taxes, or whatever it is. And then I have Shankar sir, who is going to super specialize today, and he's running short of time, I guess so, because I do not know whether he's got another session or a function to attend or a thing, but I'm sure he has to walk another 20,000 footsteps. And I think we can also give him a hand mic across to say that, sir, you can move around and also talk to us, so that you can reach your quota and give us another 5-10 minutes extra. And I've got two of my panelists who are very good walkers, I would say. SRS sir also walks well, and Shankar sir walks much better. And then we have Venkataramani, a name which only means GST to the world, because I don't think anything else he speaks other than GST. So GST, VAT, sales tax, indirect taxes, and seen him in the days when he was very close to FR Singhvi sir and reporting it across. When I was a student, I had gone to SRS sir, FR Singhvi sir to ask questions on the paper I was presenting as a student, and Venkat sir used to be there to bail us out along with FR sir. So now, before we start the session, I think I would request Shankar sir to give us a brief summary or a brief overview about this topic of search and seizure. I think one thing that when Shankar sir speaks on the search and seizures, we all will be starting to search our hearts in saying that even this point was there or no, and then we'll start searching our books, and this is going to be a lot of homework for all of us. So I request Shankar sir to please come and give an overview for around 10 minutes about this topic, sir.
Very good afternoon to one and all. At the very outset, I wish to place on record my deep sense of respect, gratitude to my mentor, Sarvashri Suresh Venkateshan, who has been a friend, philosopher, guide, and above all, everything to me in my journey of taxation. I respect him, sir. Before I dwell on the topic, I wish to introduce to all a person of extraordinary brilliance, extraordinary sense of humor, and above all, a person of tremendous, fair, transparent values in the Income Tax Department. May I present to you all Shri Ganapati Bhatt, Chief Commissioner. No. In fact, all of us need to give him a standing ovation, please. He's such an extraordinary human being. Let's give him a standing ovation. Such a simple man. He has handled all search, seizure, everything, and he is here today amidst us. Actually, he should be speaking about the entire subject. An amazing human being, though he is being part of the search system of the Income Tax Department for probably a few decades, more than a few decades. Set you down and say decides. The word set you down and say decides is a very famous statement in the popular Shakespeare tragedy, The Othello the Moor of Venice. When Othello feels that he has made an error by killing his wife, he says, set you down and say besides that in Alipo once, where I malignant and Claudius the state, I took by the throat the circumcised dog and smote him thus, and he kills himself. This is the most important quote of set you and say besides. Why I use those words today is, in search, you must always set down what you want to say and say besides. The first thing is don't say what you want to say. Search is something you cannot hear the truth, because the truth is harmful to you. My friend may not agree, but then there's the other side of the coin. So all the time, search is an invasion of privacy. Survey is a modulation of the invasion of privacy. When a search takes place, certain amount of privacy is taken out of the system. 95% of the people who visit from the department are generally more than fair. But the 5% who come, energetic, enthusiastic, youngsters, sometimes cross the Lakshman Rekha, and the people who are searched are put into some amount of mental torture. The reason why they do this is the expectation of the revenue that every search has to be successful is the root cause for such efforts. There are times when the information that they get may not be accurate, may be a failure, but the system does not permit them to accept that reality. So on that count, there is a certain amount of pressure, declarations, and compulsions of paying taxes, etc. How does the scheme of search runs? In order to constitute a valid warrant to issue to search the premises, what is absolutely required is some information in the possession of the officers who are known as the authorizing officer. There are two sets of people. The senior officers in the echelons of the revenue department, the income tax, are authorizing officers, and certain junior officers are the authorized officers. The authorizing officer, on account of certain information in his possession, based on the flow of information, maybe from the authorizing officer, has to record what is known as a reason to believe that the person who is proposed to be named in the warrant will contravene three important aspects mentioned in 132.1 ABC. 132.1 ABC I do not want to label with you all. I wish all of you all read it on your own. There are three important connotations there. If the authorizing officer feels that a concerned person has contravened, then he has a right to issue a warrant. And that warrant will authorize an authorized officer and do five things: break open, visit, etc., to unearth the undisclosed income in respect of a person under the Income Tax Act. Can be a partnership firm, can be a body of individual, can be an association of persons, can be a company, firm, individual, HUF, etc. To the best of my knowledge, all gods are assessed as AJP. I have always been waiting when the revenue will actually search an AJP. So far they have not done it. Not that income is not concealed, but it's an emotional respect to the traditional system of society, which we have to uphold the action of the revenue. All artificial judicial entities are basically, I know several temples who are not filed returns. Of course, we all know several religious institutions don't file returns. But that Lakshman Rekha has been very strictly adhered on moral grounds, kept away from the part of action under 132. When a search takes place, they record statements, they ask for declaration, they assimilate data, they put what is known as a prohibitory order. What is a prohibitory order? In terms of 132.3 or 132.3, an authorized officer, after he inspects certain contents of a person, has been permitted to put a prohibitory order, that is, prohibiting the owner of the person from tinkering with that particular area. It is normally a covered room, depending on the volume of data that they want to keep. It is sealed, a nice pink slip is pasted, signatures are taken, it's put on wax lock, and the concerned person is not expected to open it, and the authorized officer will come after within a period of 60 days and open the PO. Now, one of the most important aspects at this point of time, with constantly the revenue makes an error of judgment, which stands to the benefit of the assessees, is that they will keep one file and lock and go. And if you read the section, it says what is not practical to seize is what they can put under prohibitory order. The question that will arise in the course of litigation is whether one file was so impractical to seize that they have left it and gone. So, as assessee's representative, we allow them to do that error of judgment, not make any noise of the PO, and subsequently, at the appropriate time, we will ask them two questions. One is, what is your reason to believe that you have put a PO? You have to put a prohibitory order, you must record. In fact, the Punjab and Haryana High Court, in the case of Navlaka, has held that merely putting a PO without reasons recorded is not something that is valid in law. The PO itself is invalid. So the PO will be put by them. So we then, at an appropriate time, never ask questions before an assessing officer, allow him to continue the error of judgment, because if you ask them at the assessing officer stage, there is always some questionnaire, recognition of rules, regularization under the scheme of the Act. They can always, if some notice, actions are in accordance with the intent and the purpose of the Act, 292C, CC sections are there, they will explain to regularize it in the order. So the least amount of replies are to be given in the course of assessment, so that the continuity of the error of judgment continues, which will inure to the benefit of the assessees in the course of time. My experience in the last 30 years of practicing on the search side has been that generally the department is correct on search. Because 99% the persons they have visited have some sort of an undisclosed income or income escaping assessment. The advantage and the purpose at which the assessees succeed at various forums is not because of lack of original information, but on account of lack of continuity in the investigation process of the revenue, where their offices are transferred 2 years, 3 years, and the longer you delay, the better your case will succeed. My mentor, Venkatesh used to say, don't complete a search case for 15 years. After 15 years, some officer will come who will not have interest in this case for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, he doesn't want to take old records. Reason number 2, that amount would become so insignificant. 15 years back, such 5 crores was big. Today, nobody is interested in 5 crores, 100 crores. So the 5 crores, chodo ya, we will finish, complete the assessment and get going. So this is the advantage of what is called as procrastinating the issue. You will always say, CIT appeals, no time limit. I still remember there were in his office 2006, 7 appeals still pending till the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme came. And he said, no good, see, after 14 years of taking adjournments, what did you succeed? You took effective adjournment before the commissioner on a such case. And the answer is, all penalty interest got waived. So there is waiting, you stand to gain. Now, going back from these lighter moments, in some serious aspect, we all need to know 4 important timelines in respect of such assessments. First is from 1961 till 31/7/1995. There was one type of such assessments. From 1st August 36/95. From 1/7/95 to 31/5/2003, there is a second phase of such assessments. From 1/6/2003 till 31/3/21, there is a third timeline of such assessments. And from 31/3/23, they have gone back to the 1961 to 95 assessment. The experiment of the revenue in ensuring that the such related assessments will culminate into easy thing has actually failed, and the provisions of the block assessment between 95 and 2003 and the 153A and 123 assessment between 2003 to 21 have not achieved its desired objects, and consequently it has come back to the old one. What are the parameters and the major difference between this scheme? Up to 95, the scheme as enunciated by the Additional Supreme Court in Saiprasad Brothers very clearly said, notwithstanding the fact that the search is illegal, I repeat, notwithstanding the fact that the search is illegal, those papers can be used in an assessment. So it is not necessary for you to demonstrate that it has to be a legal search for the purpose of making an assessment. The change took place in 95 when they brought in the concept of what is known as a block assessment pursuant to a search. A block assessment means it was an assessment for a period of 10 years or 6 years. Up to some period it was 10 years, some period it is 6 years. There will be one assessment independent of your regular assessment in relation to the undisclosed income. That means whatever is unearthed out of search, that alone will be considered in a separate assessment for a period of 10 years, and your regular assessment and regular things will be excluded. A great amount of challenge was there with the revenue, and being a law that was very new in concept of making an assessment for 10 years. What are the object of the main assessment was the amendment. They found in the earlier scheme, assessees taking a contention, it does not belong to this year. They will reopen for 94-95, no, this income belongs to 92-93. And that they will take it after the 92-93 assessment become time barred. That is why I am saying in a such assessment, patience and tolerance are the most founded factors. If you are thinking that the matter will get closed overnight, please understand, then you will go pay taxes and close the matter. If you don't want to pay taxes, you have to postpone it as long as possible. What happens in 92-93, it gets barred in 10 years at that time in 2002. So you have to take adjournments for 93-94 for more than 7 years. The art of taking adjournments is what is very important. If you take proper adjustments, you will succeed. In this regard, I will share a very interesting experience with you. Nothing to do with search, but definitely a very interesting experience. My senior sir, Venkataramani sir, succeeded in a matter in the year 2005. I had joined the bar in 2002, and he said, this file, take it for a long period of time, don't take it shortly. Very difficult order to sustain in the High Court. The tribunal was, in my opinion, not correct. In sir's opinion, not correct. But we have to sustain it in the High Court. So it came before one combination of eminent judges somewhere in 2010. After 5 years, normally those years, 5 years used to take place. In 2010, somehow we started arguing, thinking it was actually pro-SSC judge giving lot of relief. So I thought it would be a wonderful thing to at least give a quietus to this. We argued the matter for about 1 hour. The other side, the judge laughed. Shankar, this case you don't have a case. It's high time we reverse it. I said, no sir, tremendous thing out there. I thought it is easy, so kindly give, accommodate 2 weeks, I'll do some research and come back. Being a person arguing the matter on an everyday basis, that accommodation generally happens to the regulars. This is an advantage of going to court on an everyday basis, they will oblige, okay. And the system was made sure to ensure that it never reached for 4 years. So the matter never, no date is given in the High Court, so 4 years it got gone by. 2014, it came before another combination of judges. That judge also, after reading 1 hour, said the same thing. I said, no, anyhow, this is a new combination, let me try my adjournment style once again. Appeared, asked for adjournment and said, this a lot of research is required, you are laying down the law, which will affect all over the country, so it requires not some immediate knee-jerk judgment, so please give me another 4 weeks. Given, it did not come till 2017. So 17 adjournment, then matter again reached, because in 2005 matter, after 12 years, what is all these old matters you put, one judge said, it again came back. It was on somewhere in 19th of 20th of November 2017, around fag end of 2017. So again, third combination, said this case, why is it pending? It has to be reversed and department should succeed. There is no way, whatever happens, you will not succeed. I said, my lord, lot of research is required. 4 weeks you please give. What 4 weeks? 2 judges you have taken, because in High Court order sheets are very well written, again 4 weeks. Then what happened? Again, with one thing we will make sure. 4 weeks means December 17th, the court is going for vacation. So he gave a date, post it on 16th December. So then all my friends said, horoscope of the case has come to an end. Every case has an horoscope. On 16th December, the Muktaya is going to happen for it. So my juniors, others asked, something will happen good, don't worry. God is always there with us. Time, so you have to have hope. If you don't have hope, you can't be a lawyer. And that was such, I have hope. I said, something will happen 16th, we are on, another 3 weeks are there. Then on 16th it got posted. It didn't get posted. It didn't get posted. So the judge asked me, hey, the 16th your matter is to come. Where is the registry? Call them. Why they have not posted your case? What have you done? I have not done anything, sir. Last week your lordship dismissed the case, Department of Appeal. I dismissed the Department of Appeal? It's not possible. How did I dismiss it? No, my lord, they made a bunch of cases on monetary limits. The limits got increased from some X amount to some 50 lakhs. All the tax without interest is only less than that for each of the years. So all the 2 crores is gone. Dismissed. Are you sure it got dismissed? Yes, my lord, we are given 230 cases. Your lordship want to dispose it of before vacation. So that is also part of the batch. So the art of getting adjournments ultimately ensured 2 crores lost to the revenue. Ultimately interest 2098 matter by the time it would happen. Similarly, in such related cases, all of us have patience. My friends in the department, without naming them, will always put pressure. But never get angry on them. Always smilingly request them, please give time, sir. Some problems, sir. You can kill your uncle 3 times, your father-in-law 5 times, your father-in-law died. Some story you can tell. But you must get adjournment. That is the art of succeeding in a search. You don't worry about it. They will be rough. They say, no, I will not give you, I will ask you, I will put you to jail. But they are all soft at heart. all that series, inside the system, they are also human beings. They also know that, see, ultimately, the revenue knows one great thing about it. They know a system that all the such related assets are contributing to 2 or 3% of the revenue. There are 6,000 listed companies which contribute 88. But once one chief commissioner told me, Karnataka 1 lakh crore tax collections, out of which 85,000 crores are paid by 20 people. For 15,000 crores, we have got all this paraphernalia. Actually, we put little tighten screws on those people, another 10,000 will come and we can leave away all the remaining people. Why have you department, why SSC, why give you work? I told her, Madam, Annadata, Sukhi, Baba, why are you starting? Without day searching, where is the question of me ever going anywhere? They must continue the searches, they must continue to make error of judgment, so all of us can survive. The joke itself took long enough. Now coming back to search. Dhariwal sir, whenever you want to stop me, stop me. Lawyers normally don't talk without payment. Lawyers don't talk without
Given a chance, they don't stop.
that's why I believe it.
Sir, today we called you as a chartered accountant.
No, it's okay, but then...
Wait.
No, I agree with you. I respect that, but still, any time, I fully endorse it. I'm here as a chartered accountant. I stand before you all humbly as one of your fraternity, deeply committed to the profession you are in. I love the profession as much as I love my life. Anyhow, coming back to the four segments of search. In the first segment, legal, illegal, they can add. In the second segment, they have to make a block assessment of the income of the entire period because we were taking a contention, this doesn't belong this year, that year. They found now the error of drafting in the system is what actually inures the benefit of assessees. They made one explanation somewhere under 158 BC by saying the assessment under 158 BC will be in addition to the regular assessment. One line, somehow some brilliant TRC unit person has added that they knew to the benefit of the assessees to a great extent by saying if that was not there, the argument should have been different. Because of that, the entire argument got focused on that an assessment on account of search has to be between 95 and 2003, has to be restricted and confined only to the seized material. If you don't have incriminating seized material, you can't make any assessment. The assessment is bad in law because it's not part of incriminating material. And now some courts have held you can't issue 148 because notwithstanding anything containing 148, you can't reopen them. The revenue got shackled by the drafting lacunas and the assessees got benefited by it. The third scheme they again overlooked and said, no, this kind of benefit is there, we'll again go back to the individual assessment. We'll remove the words in addition to the regular assessment. And 153A, 153C coinage of sections came into the system, which now was invoked till 31.321. There the courts interfered and said that what is to be assessed under 153A or C as the case may be, by and large, is arising out of incriminating material. So what is this incriminating material? That which is not normal, that which leads to an inference of undisclosed income, that which leads to an inference of escapement of income. For the revenue to prove for each document falls in the category of incriminating material, it became a Herculean task. In most of the decisions that are in favor of the SSC, in the last 10 years of its existence, first 5 years no appeals are to the High Court, now are all in the way saying incriminating material is not there, you cannot. There are some small fine tuning of it by saying what is incriminating material, what is awaited assessment, what is regular assessment, what is an assessment arising out of search. All these things are small nuances which have to be read in detail in relation to a search related assessment. In a search, one thing the revenue has been consistently not accepting is refusing to permit to record the events. They are refusing to permit to record the entire event in a transparent manner. If today high courts can have all video conferencing methods which all the arguments are recorded, there is no reason why an income tax is not a police search where you are dealing with the criminal. You are only dealing with the person whom you suspect or have reason to believe that there is an economic fraud. There is something that is called. So efforts are there from the several fraternity to the finance ministry to indicate that a system must be put in place where the entire thing is recorded. So you will then both the sides can be on a positive note. The revenue can say, here is the recording, please note that nothing is there in the system, and consequently they can say there is no coercion. Then when there is no coercion, undue influence, pressure, in the impact of retraction, which is normally done by the professionals like y'all, after the search is completed, will have its value in a highly diminished way. It is more like a PET scan. If you retract on the first day, it is 99%. After 1 month, 80%. After 1 year, 50% impact. If you retract after the assessments are over, it is 5% impact. So it keeps on diminishing. There is no medicine. Despite of cancer, there is a particular medicine. It is made in one place. But depending on the body structure, it has to be given in a particular percentage. Suppose you have to be injected 80% and it manufactured in destination A. It has to go to destination B. The time distance taken is, let's say, 4 hours. They will make the medicine 400%. So by the time it reaches the destination where it will be injected, it will become 80%. So income tax also is like that. If you retract, you have to retract depending on the timing. If you retract much later, the impact is less. So it is advisable to write a retraction as early as possible. And another important aspect which professionals and my brothers need to know is that please advise assessees when they are giving statements to simply say, they will ask what you have to say. All you have to say is, I would like to be assessed in accordance with law. If that much is educated, all that you have said wrong goes away because you have said, I want to be assessed in accordance with law. That of late, some of the officers have become extremely temperamental, sagacious, tenacious, and they refuse to write that. If they refuse to write that, you can refuse to sign that paper. And say, no, please write that. I want to be assessed in accordance. What do you have to say? You ask me a question. I am answering you by saying I want to be assessed in accordance with law. The rights, duties of an assessee are also equally important in a search. The department has a duty to be courteous. You have a right. I mean, you have a duty to be cooperate. They have a right to ask you all questions. And you have a duty to answer them to the best of your ability. They have a duty to record as you say. For this proposition, I will give one example before I wind up my initial talks. Otherwise, the search is so interesting to my passion that I can go on. 1983, I was a student. My mentor, sir, when search was happening, he sent me, go. Those days they used to allow, now these days are very different. That was going on, some officers were there, names not to be taken. He asked one question to our clients. This is an RC book in the name of Sadat Ali Khan. He was basically a financier, money lender, money lending to various people. This RC book in the hands of Sadat Ali Khan, you have financed it. No sir, I have not financed it. It's a Xerox copy. All the originals are all in the leather cases in the bureau. All this I have financed. All this lying down in my office I have not financed. There are Xerox copies. So many brokers keep coming to me. I do not. No, I say you have financed it. No sir, I say I have not financed it. Again he asked, sir, what do you want, sir? You want me to say I financed it when I have not financed it? Why are you asking me and forcing me to say something which is not correct? I am supposed to say the truth, no sir. If you really want to say I want to finance it, I will make one more addition. You must record that and then record this. I am agreeable to it. So he said, okay, say what you want to say. He was such a very interesting person. He said, Vidhan Sabha belongs to me. Please sell it. Take whatever tax you want. I'm talking of 83. I was just a student. I mean, probably I couldn't speak this much. I'll be shivering before officers. And he said, and sell it and whatever tax you want to take and give me the refund back. So this officer was saying, then he said, hey, why are you saying all these things? He said, no sir, you asked me a question, I have answered, record it now. From 3, there is no mobile, no pager, my boss is not available on the phone. He is refusing to move forward. I am telling him, no Baba, forget it and go. No, chup rahe, tumko kya malum hai? Humko malum hai, keep quiet. He is firing me. I said, I am supposed to advise you. He said, you keep quiet. And I am going on and on, then what happened? Ho gaya 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 10 o'clock ho gaya. They are not closing, the officer is not leaving. This fellow says, I will not sign any paper till you record that. Then they closed that temporarily for the day. And invitation, my boss conveniently is not available on phone. He said, no, adjournment means adjournment for myself also. I am not willing to come. So then what happened? The date got closed. The next day he came to office. And I asked him, how will you solve it? No, boss. Whatever boss says, I will do. I said, why did you say that? And what is the advantage? He said, the advantage is tremendous, sir. You are a boy, you not even passed CA. Inter pass ho gaya? He is asking me. You not even passed Inter, then you don't know anything income tax. Keep quiet. And he said, if I have recorded it, you know what would have happened? My entire statement would have become bad because anybody saying that has to be characterized as person of not mentally being sound. So he said, I would have got all my things away. Why are you not allowing me to permit them to record? So a person who is of mentally unsound, balanced mind, if any statement is recorded, has no validity. But then another thing happened, that's all history. Different SSEs have different experiences on it. One other experience before Dhariwal, 2 more minutes for this experience before I wind up for questions. One more such had happened. I was not there, it was because one of my colleagues had gone there. After some time, one DD of 36 lakhs those days in 87 was found, a very big sum of 36 lakhs. So they gave it to him and asked him, what is this DD? He kept on seeing like this, sitting for 5 minutes and put in his mouth and ate it up. Okay, life is ate it up. What? You gave the paper, I gave it back to you. Everybody is, what is that? I don't know, sir. Then afterwards, it's very lighter when he had come to office about a month later. Usual pressure, all that is okay, some declaration, all that is what happened as a corollary is a different issue. After some time, he says, why, what were you seeing at it so much, man? Sir, I was byhearting the DD number bank and all this, I go get it in cash. What were you doing so much? Why did you not put more immediate? No, sir, like in Kannada there is one poem, Nai Mari, Tendi Peke, one story. He told me that and said, like that I was byhearting it, sir, so that I should not forget the number and I know the branch, so that I have to go to the branch, take the number out and I was seeing it again and again and again and making sure So search is sometimes very joyous. It's a question of how we take it. Officers are, as I told you, generally okay. They come for their purpose. Of course, they come with the purpose of, they have done a lot of work. They have done a lot of, my very dear friend is there, so I can't attack him very openly and tell about his department of the fallacies and the difficulties we face. And in some other forum at an appropriate time, I will tell them more interesting jokes and more interesting anecdotes. Winston Churchill said, the mind starts functioning when a child is born and stops when it faces an audience, more so an enlightened audience like you. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you, Shankar sir. We have got around half an hour more of Shankar sir, and then I think he has to leave at 3:45. So I will take an audience call now. That do we talk 5 minutes of GST where Venkat sir just gives an overview in 5 minutes about the surgeons. Sir. No, I want Venkat sir to give this. I have him for the whole session later. So Venkat sir, 5 minutes of yours, and then a few minutes of SRS sir. I will take the questions after Venkat sir finishes across, and then we go back to this. I don't want to waste much time on GST and indirect taxes now, because we would like to use the whole experiences of Shankar sir in presence of Ganpati sir also. But I would still like that because it's very rare that a professional speaks in front of the department, his techniques and his style. But I think Shankar sir is a well-known person, so he takes that risk. But when I used to practice, I hardly used to take that risk. Yeah, I did.
I want to share one thing. I had the privilege of addressing all the officers. Once one DI told me, they are making so many mistakes, you please come and tell the entire department, the search department, the central circle, whatever mistakes we are making. Very interesting session with them, telling them, in our perception, why we are succeeding.
Thank you, Sanjay. It's extremely difficult to even commence me speaking. Well, Shankar sir is there. SRS is there. Saiprasad is there. SRS sir is in many ways a guru of mine who taught me how to read sections. Shankar sir is the one who taught me, he must have forgotten, but I'll tell you, he taught me how to read Madheshwara Lorry Services case, which are 139(8) of the income tax law. How to read judgments, draw analogies, ratios, observations, pronouncements, etc. I have to tell you this before I start my 3 minutes or 4 minutes. One of them who is sitting here was speaking in a public forum before Chartered Accountants, and SRS sir happened to be his chairman for that session. So the speaker was talking about judgments, that judge said this judge said that, judgment was talking about this, etc. So SRS quietly asked him, what was going on in the judge's mind when he wrote that order? Luckily for him, SRS sir got a phone call and he was on that. In 15 minutes, session was over. You can imagine answering a question, what was going on in the judge's mind when he wrote that order. Huh? So we have a beautiful phrase, reason to believe. Now what is this reason to believe? We have that under 132, 133, whichever section. We have it under 67, which talks of reason to believe. This belief must be honest. It's an honest belief. So the officer must frame an honest belief. He must be of the belief of a very reasonable man. If an unreasonable officer makes a belief or he has reason to believe, it obviously has different challenges. We will have to meet that. It simply cannot be a canard. It cannot be. It can be capricious. It cannot be in the grip of a vice. It cannot be. It cannot be wild. Belief must be as a result of a reasonable man's mindset on a given set of facts. It must be on a given set of facts. When there is no fact, there can be no belief. When there is no fact, there can be no belief. There must be a fact if there has to be a belief. Lastly, the man who frames this reason to believe or jots down these points before he orders a search, when challenged, he must be in a position to substantiate the fact that led to the search. So we keep these in mind. There are many other issues, decisions, etc., etc. Now, section 67 talks of 3 instances where an inspection can be carried out. Section 67 subsection 2 talks of power to search and survey. Search and seize. Search and seize. Both are independent of each other. 67.1 and 67.2 are independent of each other. We have allied sections relating to 41, which talks about machinery provision. We have 155, which is the burden of proof. 130, 132 relating to prosecution. For the first time, in an indirect tax statute, we have prosecution proceedings which have come in. So we have to learn from income tax. What are the given set of facts? How do we challenge this prosecution, etc., etc. So power to arrest, power to prosecute, all of this is there. So when we look at section 67, subsection 1, and probably apply section 130 to 132, what really comes to mind is, are these searches really valid searches under the GST? Are these valid searches? Can somebody as senior as a joint commissioner or additional commissioner sit in his office, look at some data points that are available in the system on GST portal, frame a belief that you are a fraud? Can he do it? How can he do it? He has nothing else. In fact, we don't have the courage of conviction to ask the gentleman who has come for search to even show the search form, INS1. We don't have the courage. We don't have the courage because we don't know what he's going to do. So the courage that we must have is, why have you come? What is that opinion that you have? What is the reason to believe that I have committed an offence which leads to inspection or search under 67(1) or 67(2)? Somebody sits in his office, he looks at input tax credit, he looks at output tax credit, he looks at your payable, he looks at something else and he says, you are a perfect fit case for fraud. Therefore I have come to search and therefore I will confiscate, seize, etc. Now these questions come to. Now we have somebody here from the income tax. I would love that he goes back and tells his counterparts in the GST department, when they come for search, they have not even seen our returns. They come and ask us for copies of the return. This is the state of search. This is the state of search. This is the truth. This is the reality. I will challenge any commissioner who sits here opposite to me and tell him this is what your officers are doing. They will come to you. They will ask you for input tax credit statement. They will ask you are working for your GSTR 3B or GSTR 1. They will take the printouts of this and they have a standard list of 53 items. Statement of input tax credit, working of input tax credit, purchase invoice, sale, invoice, purchase bill, sale, bill, reverse check mechanism, etc. And I will furnish all these details before you within 7 days. If you cooperate with him, he goes. If you don't cooperate with him, he will take your mobile phone and computer device and get out. Now what kind of searches are these? What kind of searches are these? Shankar sir did not touch upon a point. I don't know what happens in the income tax department. I would like him to speak for a couple of minutes. Searches are violent. Now whether this is permissible under law, I am saying this with a fair amount of responsibility. Searches by the GST department have become violent. They physically abuse and they take statements. Now for Shankar sir to stand here and say, you retract this and retract this as early as possible at the first available opportunity before you go to sleep is very easy. Very easy. But for a man who has gone through this abuse to sit back and say that I want to retract this statement is not going to be easy. With this I will stop. I will take question answers later. Let's see the thoughts of it.
I would request SRS sir to basically give the legal and the practical difference between the GST law search and surveys as well as the income tax law. I think we had two stalwarts speaking about it, so I would like both this to be subsumed by him and give us a different view as to say that what is legally different and what is practically being implemented separately.
Sir, 1 second before you start. Venkat wanted to know.
Please.
Venkat wanted to know about the violent behavior. In fact, my entire 40 years experience, the only time I found a violent behavior under the income tax search was assessees beat up the officers, they ran away. I've never seen officers ever being violent on it. In fact, there was a big search on all the silk merchants. All of them joined in Dhariwal, and all of them were made run up to Baptist hospital here, literally chasing them. What happened later is a different consequence. I have never come across in my life an income tax officer being violent during search, in my experience. I'm not saying because he's there, this is my actual experience. Pressure, all that is okay. Violence, physical violence, I have not heard it. Maybe as far as has some experience.
I am the last person fit enough to talk on search because I have never stepped inside the investigation wing of the income tax department. I have only been appearing before the apparent authorities after everything is over, sitting calmly in my office looking at the law and the facts and saying how to save the assessee. Now, if any of you are thinking of engaging Shankar for any of his matter, any of your appeals, etc., please ask him how much he will charge for adjournment and how much he will charge for effective appearance. Like, this comes from my heart. Shankar is one senior counsel I have seen who doesn't give a damn about money. I'll tell you my practical experience. I was arguing a matter before special bench in a case called Nandi Steels. and the special bench was not with me. It was on a question of the set-off of carried forward business laws against capital gains arising on sale of business assets. So I was arguing before the special bench saying that the business assets, whatever the profits they gain, have all the characteristics of profits and gains of business or profession, and therefore it should be set off under section 72. Special bench did not agree. Even when I was arguing before the special bench, the assessee, the client was defiant. He told me very clearly, you can go and argue whatever you want, appear any number of times you want, but you won't get 1 rupee fees from me. As expected, the special bench did not agree with me and they dismissed my appeal. So Shankar came and asked me, SR, what are you going to do about this? I said, what can I do about it? I can't appear before the court, so I'm going to just leave it there. If the client is not interested, he won't pay. He says, no. This is a very serious point of law. I am convinced that the special bench is wrong. You give me the brief. You send me the file, that's all. You don't even have to brief me anything. I'm aware of all the facts I have gone through. Then after about 10 years of filing the appeal, he won the case for us before the High Court. That means it shows his love for the law. That's a personal experience I had with Shankar. I'm not saying because he's my good friend, but he's an excellent human being. Now coming to the topic, I would like to say this. Between GST Act, which Venkat was talking about, section 67, 68, etc., and section 132, 132A of the Income Tax Act, if you look at the law, there is not much of a difference. But if you open any indirect tax reporters or income tax vis-a-vis the income tax report, you will see that the challenge to the such under Income Tax Act in the courts are much more compared to the challenges which happens in indirect tax. I don't know why. I have never seen anybody arguing before the even tribunal or the appellate authorities in indirect tax saying that the officer had no reason to believe to reopen an assessment. Look at section 12A of the GST Act or section 39 of the VAT Act. VAT Act, we used to say that he has reasons to believe the commissioner has. I said, on what basis he has the reasons? He simply issues a notice and then based on the information given me, he makes a reassessment and everybody accepts that and argues only on the merits of the case, not on the technicalities. But whereas in every income tax appeal, whether it is on search assessment or whether it is on reassessment, you will see the first ground on a technicality saying that this entire reassessment procedure or the search is bad in law. This is a major point. I don't know why the indirect tax bar was not very forcibly arguing on these kinds of reasons to believe what is the material available before the officer, before he authorized the search. Like he said, under section 67(1) of the Act, the commissioner or the joint commissioner can authorize a person provided as information and reasons to believe that there is escapement of tax. Whether it is recorded, whether when the person comes, as he asks, do you ask for the warrant saying how you are entering my premises? Though nobody asks these questions. The point is, the approach in section to the GST Act or the Indirect Tax Act vis-a-vis the search is possibly based on the police approach under the Central Excise Act in 1944. Because prior to the self-assessment scheme coming under the Excise Act, you had inspectors being posted at your factory gate, where you can't remove one bit of material from your factory without a gate pass being cut and countersigned by the inspector who is sitting at the factory gate. And they all used to wear the police uniform, khaki, intimidating. So possibly because of this, nobody ever raised any issue on the correctness of the procedure adopted by the Indirect Tax Department, whereas under the Income Tax Act, that has been the de rigueur. the first thing you ask for is, to look for anything is, any assessment order is whether there is a technical flaw in that assessment. This doesn't happen while examining the indirect taxes. Basically, this is the fundamental difference between otherwise, if you look at the provisions of the law, section 67 vis-a-vis 132, there are not much of a earth-shaking differences. All of them are same. Very clear on that. See, the only difference one can say is that under the Income Tax Act, in a search, the officer cannot seize the stock in trade. Whereas under the GST Act, he can seize the goods, which includes your stock in trade. Both under GST Act and under the Income Tax Act, the authorized officers or the search party have no right to stop your business. They cannot put a lock on your factory. They cannot put a lock on your office premises. They can put a PO on a specific area of your office or where it is not practical to seize, as you were saying under section 132(3). But otherwise than that, even under the GST Act, you cannot lock your, but they will threaten you, saying that if you don't pay the tax, if you don't issue the check. In fact, Shankar will be also aware of this. Recently in Gujarat, one officer in the guise of such spent 7 days in the house of the dealer. And the dealer was so harassed that when it went to the High Court passed such a strictures on the officer and the commissioner who allowed that to happen. He says that the High Court said the search is not to violate the fundamental rights of a dealer. You have a right to search and leave within reasonable hours. You can't camp yourself there at 7 is a trespass. You are liable for prosecution. So important thing is that, as Shankar was saying in this, you should know your rights and duties. The duty is very important, that the officers who enter your premises on showing proper warrant have a right to search. You have a right to search them before they commence their search. But you have to allow them peaceful access to everything, and then you answer questions to the best of your ability. You don't want to answer some questions, you can refuse to answer the questions. You can insist that what is being recorded is only what you say and not what the officer wants to write. So basically, this is the whole procedure. One important point I would like to say is this. From my personal experience, when I started my practice, when I used to get a notice under 143(2), and where I have to go before the assessing officer and meet him personally, I used to shiver. Then I got used to it. Then first time one of my assessees got a notice under 148 for a reassessment, I said, oh, it's a reassessment, I don't know what to do, how to go about it. Fine, then you get used to it. Then whenever some such matter happens, some client gets searched, I will start looking for a counsel or a chartered accountant who is well versed in it and try to push the file to him and get away from that. Then somebody says, why do you want to do that? If you can handle 143(2), if you handle 148, why don't you handle such matters? So we started doing such matters, and we got rid of the fear of representing a client before the authorities in the case of a search. By and large, when you as an authorized representative go before the officers, they treat you with respect, they hear you. You don't have to be worried about saying that, oh, just because there are some incriminating materials with the client, the officer will pounce on you. They do their job, you do your job, you make your submissions properly and do it in accordance with law. There is no need to be afraid saying that, oh, it's a search as well, I will not handle it. Nothing is twice, it's like a normal assessment. Only thing you have to have more material to give than what you will provide in a normal assessment, that's about all. So with this, I will conclude my opening remarks. Thank you.
I've been trying to pressurize SRS by standing behind him. My misfortune that I don't have Shankar sir much with me, hardly around 7-8 minutes. A quick question, sir. SRS sir said that the SSC should know his rights. So my simple question to you is that does the SSC have a right to sleep when he's being raided? The second question is that if he's raided and his house and the sofa sets etc. are being torn, the walls are dug across and all that stuff, what are his rights? The third is that if I have undisclosed money, undisclosed gold and jewellery that can be seized, if I have an undisclosed immovable property, can that be seized? I'll not take much time of yours. These three quick questions which are related to each other so that we could wind it up with you, sir. Thank you.
So you could take him here, please. We'll say about 2 minutes.
Being a lawyer, you get to sit and think.
He's a lawyer of standing.
Good one, sir. First is the right to sleep. I have not come across, in my experience, that they are not allowed them to sleep. They get them late till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. In that regard, I would like to share also an experience.
Sir, here the question is also that right to sleep, and supposing I'm a philosophical person, do I have the right to meditate also when
Yeah, you have right to meditate, you have right to sleep, there's no problem at all. The only thing is the decision the Karnataka and Ramayana will go against you. The simple reason they have said that as such is a single entry visa. It is not like going to your father-in-law's house, you can go and come any number of times. Go once, finish and come back. Till then they are very nice. After Ramayana Reddy came, there is an internal circular which says go start, finish it 2 days, 3 days, and the whole cause of the problem of their staying 5-6 days is yourself standing before you. I argued Ramayana Reddy and got an order for the SSC saying that it is a single entry visa. When the search is taken place, they come, finish and go. That is interpreted by them to say they will search 10 places, they will finish in 5. Even in all the 5 places, all the officers will be absolutely sitting in your sofa watching TV, asking your hospitality, getting food, coffee, juice, and then because somewhere some search is going, you are not supposed to be allowed to interact. It's a method of interpreting a judgment. According to me, right to sleep is a fundamental right, and I don't think so they will take away. In fact, way back in 1986 or 87, my boss advised one client, they ask you questions after 7 o'clock, go to your bedroom, take your bed sheet, put on your head and sleep. They can't shake you and ask questions. They will sleep till morning. If they want to sit, they can sit there. The advice. So I feel that it's not a very practical question. It doesn't happen like that because there's so much fear in a person such there. These are all becoming very, very academic oriented. And what is the second question, sir?
when they come home and they break open
When they break open, if they don't find anything, they are entitled to restitute back in the normal position. But then, if you ask that question, they'll make sure they'll find 100 things in your regular assessment and pay 10 times the amount. They'll say you're not given vouchers for this, vouchers for that. It is impossible in this country to do business with 100% accuracy. So, and the department knows about it. Theoretically, what you're saying is correct, practically an impossible reality. The last question is seizure of immovable property doesn't have, it only gets attached. In fact, if they find the entire thing is, there's nothing called seizing it, they can attach it by putting a 282B, an attachment in advance before a pending assessment happens. Because what can be seized is something they can take and go. For they find an immovable property completely, which is not disclosed in the books, they will immediately take the position of law and then attach it under the scheme of the Act, which is well within the right. What is it they will do a seizure? They will seize, once the 282B is go to the sub-registrar's office, the property will not be registered till you get an income tax clearance. It can be called a deemed seizure, not though in effective terms a seizure. What other question?
No, but is it possible because the law says that it's basically the money and the jewelleries which can be seized?
Correct.
SRS would like to answer.
No, I will tell you that. The money and jewellery can be seized physically, but if suppose they find liberating papers of a document not disclosed, there is a 282B attachment they can do. Well, they may not. See, the point is, law is an evolving process. Physically, if somebody has written a Panchanama answer and sees this document, the document will be invalid. A most moment officer will simply go back to his office, write a note by saying, these are all the entire document, entire property you bought for 10 crores is unaccounted. So consequently, you have to make a process to keep the property attached, and they will attach it. I don't think so. These are the real questions that require to be looked in a practical angle. In a practical angle, I want all of you all to learn the most important thing is how to take adjustments.
Another question. What does the intricacies of undisclosed income versus undisclosed sources?
Undisclosed income, undisclosed sources. A very interesting question. Undisclosed income is something which a stream of income is already known to the department, like you are doing petrol business. In that you are doing some concealment, jewelry, etc. The income source is known, and then you are doing that business. There is some concealment of undisclosed income, it is out of that. Undisclosed source means you are doing smuggling business of gold. That source itself is undisclosed. The department does not know that you are doing smuggling business. You are not doing any other business, computer business. The source itself you have kept away. By 3 or 4 methods it can be done. One is do it in a benami name. Second is, in olden days people used to do in 2 names. I don't want to name a person which I handled who was a brother, who was a chartered accountant. Himself, we had 3 SSCs, 3 assessments. Okay, 3 assessments he had. Of course, we succeeded him on technical grounds. A and company. A, company A. A and B company. Like that, 3 SSCs on his same name. Shankar, Arunachalam. Means they say Arunachalam Shankar 1. Shankar Arunachalam another PAN. And then say Ramasubramanian Arunachalam 1 PAN.
They say yes, not A.
Yes, got A, you put 1 PAN. And there will be 4 different sources of business in it. And the department actually raided him, being a chartered accountant. They found all these things. And ultimately, he came to our office. My boss told him, write case to argue beautifully and succeed. I said, how can you succeed, sir? 4 SSCs, same person. What is this, sir? Ganapati Bhatt means you say Ganapati B. Bhatt Ganapati. Ganapati Bhatt Uru Esro. Itra more PAN number, more one insurance business, so all insurance which I was doing with this client was there in one thing, all that. Ultimately, my boss said, what is it you can answer, sir? I asked him. See, Shankar, our office gets only TTT cases. What is this TTT? It is Tante, Tarle, Takra. You are expecting some corporate clients to come to me and all, it's not going to happen. You have to find a solution. So I will give you a solution tomorrow morning. Morning, I used to go to his house at 6:30 in the morning every day. I went, he was ready with the solution. See, you do one thing, you ask him to bring some stamp paper which you'll have, we will make some 2 trust and say this is on behalf of section 166 and put this income in a trust A and trust B and one individually. And ultimately, up to High Court, we succeeded. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm extremely sorry, I would have loved to spend more time with you all, but due to some extreme constraints and pressure of some personal inconvenience, I say goodbye to you all with the assurance to the chairman I have given. I will come and give you all unlimited time one day.
Thank you, Shankar sir. It was a great privilege having you here, of course, and of course, we did get a very beautiful professional insights. Now I think more of the participants will see the adjournments rather than.
I am not attending to the session.
On behalf of Bangalore branch of SICI, I request Chairman to hand over the microphone. Thank you, sir. We would like to see you back soon, sir.
Thank you.
Over to Sanjay sir and the panelists.
Thank you very much. And as Shankar sir said that he believes in taking adjournments, this was a live example of taking an adjournment with us also. Sai? He argued partially, but as he realized that this topic is very close to his heart, he decided that I will take an adjournment, and I'm sure we all will be privileged to have him for a longer session. And I request the Bangalore chapter's chairman to also see that we have a wonderful session with sir again. Now Venkat sir and SR sir are there, and Sai is also joining us. So I would like to now get into my jugalbandis of asking these questions on the search and seizures. The first question which I would like to ask now is, Sai has been very silent. typically a very silent personality. When he starts his arguments, you realize how tough he could be. And I have been very privileged that I was inspired to do my CA because of his dad, our Ananda sir, because he was the man who came to our college to introduce us to the Chartered Accountancy course when we were doing our BCom final year. And now Sai, irrespective of the respect I have for your dad, today I'm going to grill you. Okay, Sai, now under the GST law, Venkat said that the officers don't come prepared. Do you feel that the officer not coming prepared itself is a great advantage for an advocate like you?
Before I start, my respected teachers, beloved elders, the profession, and my dear brothers and sister members, thank the branch for giving this opportunity. To answer Sanjay sir's question, I am yet to remain reminded of what my senior would say. He said that, especially in these cases where even if they were very nicely prepared show cause notices, even in those cases he would say that. In fact, he gave me a show cause notice. After 5 days, I took the notice back to him and said, "Sir, sir, tax baratai." So he said, "Saiprasad, write a reply on technicalities. Take it before appeal. Not first appeal, nothing is happening. Take it before second appeal. You can be rest assured that the assessing officer is going to make a mistake in his order, and you're going to win." In that particular case, what happened was, the demand was proper, only that he had confirmed beyond the allegations made in the show cause notice. So this is an example of the officer not being prepared properly or not doing his own work properly. Applying these points to search and seizure cases, we have found or at least in my experience, I have found in many cases that they have left out very many important points, probably relating to stock, relating to taxability, relating to classification, relating to valuation, relating to exemptions, and these technical points which he must have considered has not been considered, and that has always been helpful. Most of the cases that we have found that the officers have helped us in winning the cases rather than we putting our effort in finding out the points. So yes, sir.
So an underprepared officer is always better, according to you. This is one of the differences we do find it when you have the direct taxes coming in for a search or a survey, and when you have the commercial tax department, at least the earlier one. I do not know about the CGST, which Venkat handles more, but I used to handle only the commercial taxes department of the local here. We always used to see that they used to just see the board and they used to walk in, right, Venkat? And the target used to be very different. I want to do basically a test purchase and see whether it is happening or not, and then convert the test purchase into a basically a search, right, Venkat? That used to be the way they used to go, which was unprepared. Now, the question which comes over here is, every officer under both the laws, they are supposed to have a reason to believe to come to a particular search or a survey. Now, that reason to believe may be a stupid reason, may be a very valid reason, but that valid reason may not be a reason where he can get any revenues for the department. But irrespective of that, he goes over there with some reason to believe, and he finds many other incriminating documents against that, which the courts have held that it is valid, though the reason was not for what purpose he came over there, but once he finds something else, that is liable to be taxed. Am I right, sir? Yeah. You could use the mics. Yeah.
as Venkat was saying earlier, that the reason to believe that expression means that it is something, an honest belief, which is not a mere pretext, and which a reasonable person would have formed an opinion saying that based on the information available with him that there is an escapement of income as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned, or escapement of tax under GST Act, or input tax credit being taken more than what is due to him. So under these circumstances, therefore, the fundamental requirement for authorizing as such, either under Section 132 of the Income Tax Act or under Section 67 of the CGST Act, is that the authorizing officer must have the reasons to believe. If the reasons to believe do not exist.
So 1 second, a small announcement. Car number 5150 has been parked down, which is obstructing the car of Shankar sir, and he's not able to remove it. So anybody owning the car, can you please go down and remove the car from the obstructions, please? Sorry, please continue.
Yeah. So therefore, my point is this. If the basic fundamental premise on which a search is authorized is not in accordance with law, anything else you find in the search is not correct. Of course, as Shankar was saying, the Supreme Court decision in Saiprasad, they have said that even any information which is collected or documents which are collected in an illegal search can be used in an assessment. There is no dispute on that point. So, but the point is, if you go to the court before the assessment proceedings start and prove it to the court that the search is illegal, you can ask for the return of the documents and possibly the department may not be able to use that. But some courts have also held that yes, you can return the documents, but you can take photocopies of that. To certain extent, yes, you can. The department has a right to use those materials in an assessment.
Okay, so it is. Venkat, before coming to you, Sai has a point and then we come back to you.
There is a doctrine called as fruit of the poisonous tree. This doctrine says that if the fruit, that is the evidence, which is coming out of the poisonous tree meaning an illegal search, then that evidence cannot be taken into consideration. This is coming out from the American jurisprudence. However, the matter came to be tested for the first time in the Indian laws in the Privy Council of Kuruma versus Regina. I have put it in your material, wherein the court said that they are not concerned about the legality or illegality of the incriminating material found. They are only concerned if it is relevant or not relevant. And further, we have a celebrated decision of Puranmal versus Director of Inspection. I think that was a 5-bench judge, if I am not wrong, I'm not sure on that, wherein they said, neither by invoking the spirit of our constitution, nor by strained construction of the fundamental rights, can we spell out the exclusion of evidence obtained by legal search. This is in case of income tax. As far as the indirect taxes is concerned, you have Pashupal Devi Jatiya versus Badhavan, that is in case of customs. Wherein clearly in fiscal laws, they are saying illegal evidence is found in an illegal search can be used in any case.
Venkat sir?
Now, only one point just in addition I'd like to make here is, see, what happens is that it may have a very important aspect in assessment, earlier at least. For instance, if there is a valid search only, you can make an assessment under 153A. Assuming the officer has made a search and he thinks it's valid and he has proceeded on the basis it's a valid search and make an assessment under section 153A. Later you prove it that it is not a valid search, then the entire assessment goes. So these are all certain technical aspects which we have to keep in mind, saying that of course in the CGST Act there is no concept of an assessment by the officer, it is an adjudication process where individual issues are taken up by issuing notice either under section 73 of the CGST Act or 74, depending on whether you have concealed the particulars of fraud, suppression, etc. Based on that, they will take individual issues. They don't make an assessment of your turnover for a particular year. This is a concept which has been borrowed from excise into the CGST Act. The only assessment, you make a self-assessment when you file the return and pay taxes accordingly.
Venkat sir? Venkat, you could sit down, others I could not be audible.
I'm fine, I hope I'm audible then.
Yes.
Now, while I agree with what SRS sir is saying, consider this case. There is one learned joint commissioner sitting in his chamber, somewhere there. What he does, he frames, forms an opinion. What is his opinion? Take for instance, he frames or forms an opinion that, let's say, Harish, Siddesh, all of these gentlemen are using accommodation bills as a technique to avail input tax. Just assume that this is the case. So there is a learned joint commissioner framing this opinion. The presumption is that the reason to believe that A and B assessees are trading in fake bills should be something which is being written when he authorizes this search. Now what happens practically on the ground? Please take all INS 1A. INS 1A is a search warrant. INS 1 is a search warrant. So this list down, what is a reason to believe? It will tell you a suppressed his turnover. He then claim input tax credit in excess of his entitlement. His stock books are not maintained. Records are. Sir, you will not believe, all of these are ticked. Are you framing an opinion that I don't have books, my stock is not correct, I claimed excess input tax credit, I am a fraud, I have suppressed my turnover, my books of accounts are not maintained like cogent and verifiable? How can you frame an opinion? How can you frame an opinion? All these boxes are ticked when you come to me.
Venkat sir, is
So,
the reason to believe an opinion
Correct.
or a question?
No, we'll come to that. So, an officer sitting there has reason to believe that I have committed all possible offences in the course or furtherance of my business. How is it possible? Now, look at the point number 2. When they authorize an inspection or a search under 67(1) or 67(2), he is holding 2 warrants in his hand. He is holding 67(1) which authorizes an inspection in his left pocket. He is holding 67(2), a search warrant, in his right pocket. So he will come with 67(1) and show you, you have not done this, you have not maintained books, you have not done this, you are total fraud, all of this. Then when he finds some bills, excess stock, he takes out 67(2) and gives you, this is the search. Now, while I completely appreciate SRS from where he is coming, the material that is available at the time of search may be used at the time of 74 when you determine my tax payable. But is the search not vitiated? Is the search not vitiated? The answer is yes. You may use the material that is available in the course of the search for determining my tax liability, no doubt, but the search is vitiated. Now, who has challenged this? Nobody has challenged this. Nobody has challenged this. Alternate to.
I'm sorry, Venkat sir, there's another announcement here again for the car KA03NH5150. Does it belong to any member here, please? You can just lift up the hand so that Shankar sir is still waiting down. He has to urgently go. It doesn't belong to any one of us? Or we have forgotten a car number? Color of the car? Maroon color. Doesn't belong to anyone here? Okay, sorry, Venkat.
So the material that is available in the course of search can be used for determination of tax or assessment reassessment purpose. Is the search not vitiated? My honest answer would be yes. Now I will look for SRS's view on this.
The point is this: if the material which is found in an illegal search, whether it is used in an assessment proceeding, in this case section 73 and 74, what you agree with me on that?
I agree with you, that's why I said I agree with you. But there's no they come practically. I'm on the practical point.
Point is, from CGST point of view, one may even wonder what is the point in challenging this search?
Exactly.
If you challenge the search and even if you succeed, if the material which was found in an illegal search can be used in a proceeding under section 73 or 74, more likely 74 rather than
74.
only 74.
Only 74.
Only 74. Then where is the question of what is the point in challenging the search? At least in income tax we have something to say that because it's an illegal search, today the explanation 2 to below section 148, which deems certain information to be information for the purpose of section 148 is not available.
So Michael, a little closer.
Is not available, and therefore this assessment made under section 147 is bad in law. Those kind of defenses may not be available when you are challenging section 74 proceeding, section 74 on adjudication order.
Correct. Agree.
So basically that is the difference, one of the main differences between challenging the illegal search and income tax act. Therefore, that is the basic difference between challenging illegal search under section 132 or section 67 of the GST. Yeah.
Mr. Sai, would you like to add something? Because I think you were different from what Venkat sir was saying.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, if you see INS 01, you have three parts to it. Part A, Part B and Part C. Part A is applicable to taxable person, 4 cases. Suppression of supply or suppression of goods. Excess, that is point number 1 is supply of supply. Point 2 is suppression of goods. Point 3 is excess ITC taken. The last one is contravention of the provisions of the Act, but it doesn't stop there. With an intent to evade payment of tax. This is the first part. Second part is with respect to either the owner of the goods, a person who is storing the goods. Third one is with respect to a person who is transporting the goods. It's only for these 3 people that you can actually do a inspection. If you look at 67 subsection 2, it says where the proper officer either pursuant to inspection carried out under subsection 1 or otherwise. So, and it says has been secreted, which means the intention in subsection 2 is to unearth either the documents or goods. It doesn't stop at goods. It says goods liable for confiscation. So they can't simply go to a factory and say I'm going to seize it. They must demonstrate that this is liable for confiscation, which means it must fall within the 5 cases under section 130. 130 says what are the goods which can be confiscated. If it falls under those 5, then it's goods liable for confiscation. Or documents, or things, or items kept in those boxes. Therefore, when it has to be upgraded from inspection to search, they have to again go back to the JC and then say, on the basis of inspection that I have found, I now have a reason to believe that there are these items are incriminating, these items will be used for, the words is useful for any proceedings, not only his but any proceedings. So it must be useful. This forms reasonable belief. Once this reasonable belief is there, if you followed what I said, reasonable belief in subsection 2 is different compared to reasonable belief in subsection 1. I said what are the 4 cases. The reasonable beliefs itself being different, therefore like how Venkat sir said, I'll keep INS 1 left hand for inspection, INS 2 for right hand. If it does like that, the entire proceedings is vitiated. Once the proceedings are vitiated, I think in Rahman versus State of Rajasthan case, wherein
he had simply ticked all the boxes. When he had ticked all the boxes, the judge simply said there is non-application of fine. You have not applied whether it is for what case, and so therefore the proceedings itself was set aside. So we can actually investigate.
Yes, Siddesh?
They don't take any boxes also. Nowadays when you see
They don't take out.
none is
There's a
ticked.
blank.
It's
Blank form.
only the name of the SEC.
So-
The form comes, which is signed by DC, generally in the State Department is additional commissioner. He just signs, he says, okay, DC is authorized, and other two people, that's all, it's just a blank.
That's it.
When you question, we don't know, even the authorities don't know. In fact, they are indulging in INS 01, actually they want to audit. They want to verify the books of accounts, but they come with INS 01. In fact, just for members, 2-3 months back in Karnataka, there are thousands of INS 01 issued.
Easy. Yeah.
Thousands, and more so by the State Department, not by the central tax wing, it is the state tax wing. In fact, in one case we defied. We said no, we will not entertain it. But officer, they were offended, the DC ranking officer. After 2 days, he sends another endorsement. Mind you, sir, they send an endorsement. They are still in the matter. They send an endorsement and he give me a big list, 2 pages, asking all the details. This is what is happening. In fact, on the same basis, we met the commissioner, madam here. Let me tell you, we had an occasion. We met the madam commissioner. In fact, I could realize it has got tacit approval of the commissioner also, because they are getting crores and crores of rupees. Because nobody is defined, and this is how things are happening. And in fact, sir, I also met the additional commissioner, the person who authorized INS 01. Of course, now he is transferred. The earlier person I met with him. So they say, no, I have every power to do it. I am asking, sir, you are giving this, it's not blind. You tell me whether it is 67.1 or 67.2 also, what we don't know. It's just a blank, sir. That's what is happening. Indirectly, in fact, the commissioner was telling, look, if I take up an audit, it takes more time. It takes about maybe 6 months to 8 months, because audit, ADT 1, ADT 02, eventually there has to be show cause notice and then the demand. It takes time. This is very easy for me. In fact, last month Karnataka was number 2 in tax collections. And the reasons are like this. It's very unfortunate. So, but this is how things are going as far as state is concerned.
Right, so thank you very much, and
This answers, just 1 second, sir. This answers the point which Sanjay sir raised, the first question that he asked me. Sir, just the way of probably interacting with the department, sir. 1, politely refuse. 2, my request to you is, please don't go and meet anyone. Just tell them, sorry, we are not going to allow you to enter inside. Because he has to take your signature that the INS 01 has been shown to you and has been served on you, and the entire inspection and search, the efficiency of it, the efficiency of it is based on the fact that it is sudden.
so the permission required under the GST law, is it there under the income tax law, SRS sir? And second thing is that supposing they say, no, we will enter, so can I call the cops?
Right to privacy, now in the 9-bench decision in Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India versus others, unanimous 9-0 is a fundamental right under Article 21, point number 1.
Fundamental right to stop them, right? Or for them to enter?
No. I said it's right to privacy.
Okay.
Point number 2. Of course, I had this as a part of presentation. Lord Coke, when he was the Attorney General of England and Wales, said, to every man, his home is his castle, and hence to protect his castle. So therefore, if these kinds of invasions are made into the private premises of an assessee, I don't think you have a right to call the police, but right, the question you asked is whether you can call the police is the question.
To stop them from coming in.
Yeah. So the answer is, in my understanding, I don't think you have a right to call the police to stop him from entering, because
No, when my right is violated, a fundamental right is violated, I can call the cops.
your fundamental right
Yes, sir.
possibly you can file a complaint of trespass.
Trespass.
Okay, the point is, see, it's very clear in income tax.
It's not a habeas corpus.
In under section 132, the officers have a right to call the assistance of police in a search if they find that the assessee is obstructing them from carrying on. Now, the general rule is this, based on the General Process Act and Evidence Act, is that every act of a government servant is valid, is done in good faith.
Act of God.
Okay, and therefore, even if an officer enters your premises to search under section 671 of the income tax of the GST Act, the inspector under 671, which he converts later into 672 as for a seizure of various goods or documents, then the only, in my opinion, the only course open to you is to challenge it in a court of law. I don't think you can physically prevent an officer from entering on the basis of a warrant.
Absolutely.
Even if
That
the warrant is not
may be
valid.
invalid, that warrant may be invalid,
Inchallenge.
that you challenge it. I doubt even whether you can file a complaint of trespass. That is I'm not very sure on the criminal law procedure, etc. But based on these principles, according to me, you cannot challenge the entry of the officer. You can only later on question the validity of that, like what they did in the Gujarat High Court case which I mentioned earlier. 7 days that officer sat in that person's office, home. Then the court came out very heavily on that, and then they told the commissioner to take action against that officer. So only you can go to the court, file a petition, and then ensure that maybe you can get an immediate order from the court. Possibly if the court is satisfied on the prima facie material that the search is invalid, they may ask the officer not to enter. But until that happens, I don't think you can prevent him physically from doing it. If you prevent him physically from entering, then possibly he can take the help of police.
No, when the police are already being called by you, he did not call them again. Okay, I think Shankar sir has given a very beautiful mantra to us that whenever you don't agree with the speakers or you don't agree with the officers and you want some time, you better take a coffee break. So we break for 15 minutes and we join back again. Thank you. It's ready, Alessandra.
I'm happy with these two empty chairs because we never agree on any matter.
That's why you are today dealing with two different acts together, sir. Okay, do we wait for our colleagues to come down or we start off?
We start.
Because I thought when my panelists have already finished the coffee and tea, I thought we should start off so that we can cover a little more topics over here. The question on the income tax law here is that if I have been issued a warrant and the warrant says that the warrant is issued in the name of A, B and others and it belongs to a company X where A and B are part of it, but I do not know who the others are, would it be a valid warrant?
Basically, under section 132(1), the authorizing officer must, based on the information available in his possession, should have a reason to believe that a person will not do any of the acts mentioned in 132(1)(a), B or C. So therefore, the search warrant is with reference to a person. Initially, when they used to have a warrant issued in the name of A and B, what we call joint warrants, and then the department used to search both of them. The matter was challenged in the High Court, and the Allahabad High Court said, once you issue a joint warrant, it is deemed to be issued in the name of an association of persons or body of individuals, and therefore the A and B cannot be searched independently. So to get over this particular ruling of the Allahabad High Court, section 292cc was introduced, where they said that even if it is issued in the name of two persons jointly, that warrant is valid, and the assessment shall be made on each of those persons who have been mentioned in the warrant. But the question here is, it is not, the objection cannot be to A and B, the expression others. Once you put A, B and others, that warrant becomes invalid. It becomes vague. No such can be conducted on the basis of a vague warrant. Because this happened in practice. We received in some cases we saw that the warrant was in the name of AB and others, of X group.
And another.
And others. And therefore we took us, like Shankar saying, the lighter vein when we argued the matter before tribunal, saying that on 292cc2 he must make an assessment. So where is the assessment of the others? So where is the assessment of others? And therefore this warrant is void for vagueness. Because no document can be vague. In order to be valid, they have to be specific and point to the point. And therefore on that ground it can be challenged that it's a vague warrant and not valid.
So the warrant may be vague, but A and B specific. So the search on A and B is valid still, even though you have the word A and B.
That's what I'm saying. The point is, if the question is that the entire warrant is vague. So therefore, according to me, the entire warrant is, because it also shows the non-application of the mind by the authorizing officer when he issues a warrant like that. So therefore, on that ground also, I personally believe that it is that warrant is void in that aberration.
So all the three people would be dropped. The others would also be dropped, A and B also would be dropped. According to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sai has a different opinion.
No, same opinion. Just want to point out the fact the word used in 67 is a taxable person, which means it refers to one person.
Okay.
And next it says any person, doesn't say persons. And like Sir pointed out, two, and it is, when it says two, it must be to a specific person. So if it is for two persons, it goes. You require two INS01. Yes. But one INS01 cannot be for two people.
Okay. The same thing holds good in income tax also, sir? If it is written Sanjay and SRS.
Look at section 292cc, it validates the joint warrant.
It validates a joint warrant.
Okay, the Income Tax Act, there is a specific provision in 292cc which validates a joint warrant, and the only thing I am saying is bad in law because it is vague.
Okay, fine. The word others, but if there are specified people, then it is valid.
If it says Sanjay and Mrs. Sanjay, sufficient, valid.
Okay. Now, Sai says that under the GST law, it is a person. Now, would you say that the person would also mean persons?
No.
SRS.
See, looking at from the Allahabad High Court judgment, because even if you look at section, let's look at section 132 of the Income Tax Act before going to section 67. The clause A of 132(1), clause A of 132(1) uses the expression any person. Clause B also uses the word any person, and clause C also uses any person. Okay. So therefore, the Allahabad High Court possibly read any person only as an individual. Okay. That is one entity. Individual not in the sense of individual, it can be a company, it can be a firm, that doesn't matter. But only one person being mentioned there. So on that basis, and the expression used in section 67 of the GST Act is a taxable person. Okay. And you may recall under section 54F of the Income Tax Act before its amendment by the Finance Act 2015 from assessment year 15-16, that a house does not mean one house.
Multiple houses.
It can also be multiple houses. Multiple also is coming under the expression because the court said means depending on the context. It can be one or more than one. So if you adopt that interpretation, then a person may be more than one person.
Okay, but that was a beneficiary provision. Here it would be a little adverse to the SSC. So whether you could take it across, we leave it over here now because we have got other questions to also cover across. The second question is that if they come for a particular premises also, should they have a notice for each of the premises separately, or it can be said Sanjay and company, so all the premises of Sanjay and company can be covered?
See, basically, the warrant is in respect of the person with reference to their premises. With reference to a premise.
Okay,
So if they say Sanjay at your address,
okay,
the warrant is valid only for entry in that. Okay, but then the provided section 132(1)(a) says that if the authorized officer has reasons to suspect that any documents or any other goods etc. of the such person is kept in any other place, without waiting for an authorization, again he can search that place after recording reasons. So the warrant, though it can be on this one, if there are material to available with the authorized officer to suspect, not even reason, to suspect that the goods or documents are secreted in some other place, he can search that place without waiting for an authorization from the Principal Commission.
okay. Venkat, the question is here for you. That's the same premises which has multiple dealers. That's permissible under the GST law. So if a notice or a warrant is issued, say for Sanjay and company, and there are another 4 or 5 dealers registered in the same premises, can the department use their powers to verify or search all the dealers, or they have to restrict it to only Sanjay and company's books?
They have to restrict it only to the person stated in INS 01, which is a person or a business. Simple.
No, the person is there, my business is there, but there are also businesses of Sai and Venkat also into the
He
firm.
cannot touch. He cannot touch.
You agree, Sai?
Yes, sir, I agree. Because if you look at 67, you look at Rule 139, and you also look at INS 01, there it is search for a specific person at a specific place for a specific time. Now, in that place, when he comes to do inspection, he cannot convert inspection of a place into inspection of another person. However, my small caveat is, he has come to do search for my premises. In my premises, when he is doing search, if he finds other person's books, he can definitely, in my understanding, he can definitely, my view is that because it has come in my place and the INS 01 authorization is there for my place, he can definitely carry those.
No, but Venkat says that he
I have
can't.
one point on this.
Sir.
Since the Code of Criminal Procedure is applicable to this, what are the relevant provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure regarding structural seizure with respect to the kind of questions Sanjay is asking?
Sir, the relevant provisions are Section 100, Section 103, Section 165, and Section 93 and Section 94. Now, Section 100 states that the search has to be along with two independent witnesses, which is anyhow being carried out. Section 103 says that in case of residential premises or where there are ladies and children, then you have another lady to come. Section 165 is the safety net. Section 165 subsection 1 of the CRPC states that, again it is brought out here, saying that you must state what is the reason to believe. After stating what is the reason to believe, the next point it states is, you yourself must go and do that. That is in the case of a police officer, you yourself must go and do. If you can't do, then you must say to which person you are authorizing. After you saying to which person you are authorizing, you go and you have to say what is the specific thing that is to be unearthed at that particular place, without which you cannot proceed in your criminal complaint. So therefore, that specific thing that you want to unearth, the specific place for which you want to go, and the specific time at which you have to go, those things have been given. And the last and the most important fact which most people forget is, as soon as you do this, you have to give a report of this to the magistrate. If you look at 65 subsection 10, it says magistrate shall be substituted by commissioner, which means whatever reason to believe was originally there with the joint commissioner, though at the time of search we cannot ask, because 165 provisions are made mutatis mutandis applicable to a search in 6710, on an application, when an application is made free of cost, the commissioner is duty bound to give, however practically they are not doing.
So
This is the CRPC provision.
basically, under the CRPC, you can search only the place for which the warrant, I mean the
Warrant is there, search
warrant
warrant is there, sir.
So the place is the same, but in the same place, if there are multiple accounts, they can only see that particular account. If it is saved in the same system, like for example, I am a chartered accountant, I have got 20 clients. One of my clients' books of accounts are also, all the 20 clients' books of accounts are maintained by me. So in that case, one client has been, a warrant has been issued. And based on what Mr. SR has told, what I understood is that the department can come to my office also because the accounts are maintained by me, so that is that. So when they see my books of accounts pertaining to that particular client, can they also go to the 19 other clients?
No, I'm quite clear. No.
As to
They can ask you only
In the same system, the same server, the details are mentioned. They can take the backup of the whole server.
No, he may take, but he can't put it to use at all.
There is a decision of SR Bortli by.
Yeah, can you repeat it little louder, please?
There is a decision of SR Bortli by. It is clear that in case of a CA's office, if the notice is the name of an associate, only that particular associate's records can be checked.
Only
the
that
law is set on that file.
Completely.
So they can't take any other client's accounts?
In fact, you can refuse to give your server. You can say, I will copy all of this and give it to you, pertaining to this ex-client.
SR Bortli by is also formed as on its associate of a big four.
That's settled.
Any divergent views? Yes, answer? No, it's all okay? Okay, fine.
One connected question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, like you mentioned, 6710 connected to 165.5. Do we limit that application? If at all we want to make an application under section 6710, is it limited only to 67.2 or can it be extended to 67.1 as
Of
well?
course, 67.1 also. What stops you from making an application?
Because of the usage of the words search and seizure in 6710 and
Please look at 67 subsection 1. 67 subsection, please run. 67 subsection 1 talks of reason to believe and those three conditions are there. 1,
Yes.
2, 3, 4. Right? And the latter part of it talks of intention to evade tax.
Yes.
So when you make an application, you can also ask him, what is the reason that you had to believe that I have contravened 1, 2 and 3, that suppression, entitlement, availment, etc.
Correct. Her question is this. Under 67.1,
So
the point is, just I
Yeah,
would like to seek clarification. See, what she says is, under section 67.1, you can only inspect.
Yes.
Under section 67.2, only you can search and seize. Okay. Now, 6710 uses the expression the CRPC procedures as far as may be relevant for a search and seizure only are therefore. Therefore, the question of giving any report to the magistrate or the commissioner, and even if he gives under section 67.1 to his superior officer, you may not get this one. Only if there is a search and seizure, you can get a copy. That is the question, and therefore, inspection only is permitted under 67.1, not search. And hence, that the protection or the rights under 6710 are not applicable. That would be my view.
Okay. Ma'am, your question was whether the document for reason to believe will be available.
No.
can an application be made?
For inspection.
No, was it the reason to believe document or the report?
Report.
Same thing to believe document.
Same thing.
No, the report to the commissioner.
Report to the commissioner would be more substantial.
Report to the commissioner.
Okay.
Reason to believe is given.
My question was reason to believe documents.
Reason to believe document. My understanding is we may not succeed for inspection because the word used is as far as possible for search and seizure, which is under 67.2. The reason for going for inspection is quite different as compared to search. in search you have documents or you have goods liable for confiscation which is useful for any proceedings, that has to be identified and taken. That is why 67(2), whereas 67(1), those 4 conditions for taxable person. However, the whole point is you are challenging this. When you challenge this before a court of law, that time he is duty bound to produce it before the court, and when they produce it before the court, the CPC on that aspect is when you are providing an evidence to the judge, you must provide it to the opposite.
No.
However, there are one case where they have given it as
No. See, look at it like this. When you write a reply, when he inspects, he has to show you one. Correct? When he enters, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. He will inspect. He will go. He will not do anything. He will make one note and he will go. When he goes back, the so-called endorsement will come. Kindly produce A, B, C, D, F, G, H. So when that comes, you ask him for INS 1, he will give. They are giving. They are giving. I'm sure you would have experienced their giving. But all ticks will be there.
That's true. That's true.
The second row in front of you, he had another question to ask, so you can ask that now.
Yeah, just to understand it in a clearer way. Is it like 165 subsection 5 is literally applicable only to 67(2), or can we extend further, sir? The entire 165(5).
Only to 67(2).
Only to 6.
I mean, that's my view.
Even my view is only to 67(2).
But they're giving, take it. What is your problem? Correct?
Definitely, sir.
You could pass on the mic to Rosemary ahead of you. Yeah. Yes, sir, in the front.
It is not reason to blame. So there is a problem. See, only one thing on this. I mean, I'll just close this exercise my right as a septenarian and close this topic. See, the point is, there was on a similar issue raised in the Income Tax Act on the search, whether the reasons recorded by the authorizing officer to authorize a search can be given to the SSC or the appellate authorities. The Karnataka High Court in Ramayaradi's case said that yes, when you ask for it, you have to give. You can also rely on the decision of Supreme Court in GK and Drive Shack, where they said in respect of section 148, whatever reasons recorded in 148(2) should be given to the SSC. But to get over this Ramayaradi's decision, Income Tax Act was amended by introducing explanation in section 132, saying that the reasons recorded under section 132 under any other subsections shall not be provided before any person or to an appellate authority or to a tribunal. It can, of course, nobody can stop the court's powers to call for reasons. So, in the absence of any such thing in section 67, I think you have a right to ask for reasons to believe. The only point is, if you go under RTA Act, maybe they will refuse. Because under the RTA Act, if anything related to the investigation wing of anybody, then it is not permitted. So whereas if you go under as a normal reason saying that it is my case, I am entitled for that, give it, then based on Ramayaradi, you can ask for it.
Your question.
Sir, my question is to Saiprasad sir. Sir, you mentioned that this 67 uses the word a person and not using any plural words. So, as per the General Clauses Act, where the singular words are used, it includes plural. Can that have implication?
That definitely can have an implication, but when is you have to go to the jurisprudence behind this. When is a search made? The bedrock of assessment is self-assessment. Thereafter you have scrutiny, that is returns I have filed. If I have not filed returns, then you have best judgment assessment under 63 and 62 and 63. You also have a summary assessment under 64. That also is not sufficient, you have audit under 65. That is also not sufficient, and therefore you are coming under 67. Which means they have actionable material that you have a positive action to evade taxes. So that has to be done by a person, or it can also be done by collusion in case of fake bill. When it is in case of collusion, it has to be given separately in the name of each and every person. Assume you give only one singular includes plural, the INS 01 must state the premises name, and it must state two, and it says name and designation in the form. Different persons may be staying at different places. So by that itself you have to issue separate INS. And more importantly, the point I want to do is look at the offense in question, which means it is done by a particular person, and if it is done by way of collusion, it has to be given for to all the persons separately. If the revenue is given for one person and wants to extend this, my understanding is it will not pass the test of law, even bringing General Clauses Act.
Yes, sir, this question is to you. A different question, not the same one. Okay, now supposing on 1st of November they come and raid my office, and after that they give a PO and they leave off after say 5-6 days. Then after that again they come on 15, then they've seized certain books of mine also. My two questions over here is that when they come back again, and can they verify it and I cooperate with them because I don't want any other nuisances to come because I know they've seized my books also. That's point number one. Or they require another warrant basically to come to my premises. The second thing is, what all documents they seize from me, for how many days can they return it?
Basically, what happens is, as Shankar was telling in his opening remarks, a warrant is a single entry visa under the Income Tax Act. As far as the Karnataka High Court decision in Ramya Reddy's case concerned, which is also followed by some other High Court judgments on that point. So therefore, once a warrant is issued, the officer enters the premises to be searched, and if he leaves the premises, that means that the validity of the warrant expires. So if he wants to enter the place again, he has to get another warrant from the authorizing officer to enter the place. Otherwise, that warrant. Therefore, merely because he puts the PO and then leaves that place, he cannot enter again. So the moment on 1st November he enters my office based on a valid warrant and then searches my place, leaves let's say around 9 o'clock in the night, that entry is over, that visa is not valid anymore. Next time if he wants to come to my place, he has to do it. The PO can be extended. PO would be valid if he has, before exiting my place on the first day, November, if you had issued a PO, that PO would be valid for the stated period. But once he goes out, he ceases to be an authorized officer. He cannot exercise any power over that except for a period of 60 days. But he cannot enter again.
He can't enter. Now supposing he enters and because of my fear that he has certain documents of me, I allow him to do it, then can it be treated against me?
The point is this. The question is that if you, in ignorance of law or out of fear or out of not wanting to offend him in any way, you allow him to do that. Okay. And if you don't challenge it, then it becomes valid. Nothing can be done on that. As we were discussing earlier, even if it is illegal, if he does that, the material seized can be used. So the point is that it is basically a question of strategy. At what point of time you challenge all those things, when at the appeal stage, whether you can take a ground on this, saying that listen, it is not possible, the material which is gathered during him is not a response, it is not a continuation of search, and therefore he cannot do that. It is not even a search. Question of being valid or illegal search does not arise, and therefore that material cannot be used. These are all matters strategically you have to decide whether to take it in appeal and at what stage. But in law, looks like that if it is an illegal search, you can use the material.
So beyond 60 days, he has to return back the papers to me?
No. See, what happens is, under section 132(9) capital A of the Income Tax Act, an authorized officer can retain the seized assets and documents only for a period of 60 days, if he is not the assessing officer. If the authorized officer and the assessing officer are same, he can retain it until the completion of the assessment. Under 132A, what it says is that if any asset seized or document seized, etc., can be retained for a period of 30 days after the completion of the assessment or reassessment or recomputation, either under section 143 or 147 or under 153A or block assessments, etc. Okay. That is the power available to the authorized officer, but it says that such powers should be exercised after 60 days by the assessing officer. So, under 132(9) capital A, at the end of 60 days, the authorized officer who has seized the documents must hand over all those seized assets and documents to the assessing officer.
He can do it even after 60 days in the hands of assessing officer, it will be valid.
The law says within 60 days, which cannot be extended.
Okay.
But the one attendant question or incidental question this arises is, see, in many cases what happens is they issue summons even after 60 days. The question is whether that summons is valid. Whether he can record a statement after the expiry of 60 days mentioned in 132(9)(a). First is, an authorized officer can take a statement during the course of the search under 132(4) and use it in evidence. So therefore, under 132(4) he can do it, but that only during the course of search. Once the search is completed, no statement can be recorded under section 132(4). Then the next question arises is whether such an officer can record a statement under section 131 by issuing summons. Under 131(1), the statement can be recorded only by an assessing officer. Is leaving, sir? You are leaving, sir? So, Mr. Ganapati Bhatt has got some important engagement. He is leaving, so we should thank him for being present throughout the day.
Yes, sir.
So, therefore, under 131(1), only an assessing officer can issue summons. The authorized officer from the investigation wing cannot issue summons. Okay? This is the first point. The second point is under 131(1)(a), an officer of the investigation wing can issue summons, but that is prior to search. Prior to search, if he gets some information that there is something hanky-panky going on with reference to any assessee, either he can call that assessee or somebody other evidence and get the information and to form an opinion later to tell the superiors that the search is needed, then he can summon the persons under 131(1)(a). Other than this, so therefore that is a pre-search summons. So during summons, during search, 132(4) statement, and maybe until the search is completed, some statements for 60 days. But even that is a doubtful proposition. According to me, once the search is completed, the authorized officer cannot record any statement.
What in the case of a survey, sir? In the case of a survey, they come, they survey my office and go back. Can they take a statement later by issuing a summons or no?
See,
Is there a difference between them?
Yeah, in the case of a survey, then it depends on who is the officer who has conducted the survey. If it is your own assessing officer who has conducted the survey, then there is no problem in giving you a summons under 131(1) and taking statement from you. But if the survey officer is an authorized officer, who is not your assessing officer, then he has no powers to do it.
So
even during survey, even under 133(a)(3), small 3, the courts have held that particular statement taken during survey have no evidentiary value. Because in a survey, the law does not authorize him to administer oath. Any statement taken without administering oath is invalid. It cannot be used as an evidence. So even though it takes, what is that, where is Sanjay? Shankar. So the court, Supreme Court has also blessed the decision of the Madras High Court. I don't recollect the name. Kader Khan. Thank you. So Kader Khan, where they said that any statement taken during survey has no evidential value.
So you need not repatriate it. Like in case of surveys when we give a statement under oath, Shankar sir said that the earlier you do, the better it is. In surveys, I don't have to do that itself. I can just dispute it.
Yeah,
say that.
you don't have to do that, but I would prefer that you do that.
You suggest to do it.
I suggest to it, play it off safely.
Okay, Venkat sir, in case of GST law, there are inspections which happen, which is equivalent to survey, right? One is a search, which we were talking about, one is the inspection which happens.
Yes.
So in this, what is the difference between the inspection and the search as far as the GST law is concerned? Like under income tax, SRS sir very beautifully told us that there are two different concepts.
Yeah, even under the GST law, section 67(1), which speaks of inspection, is completely different from section 67(2), which talks of search and seize. In section 67 subsection 1, clause A, there are three classes of activities or transactions which alone can form a subject matter of inspection. So he can inspect, make a report, take copies of whatever he believes or has reason to believe that you have suppressed, evaded, avoided, etc. Go back and clearly make a statement that there is an intent to evade tax in respect of 1, 2 or 3 classes of these transactions. Beyond that he can't do anything. He can only seek copies, but he cannot seize copies. In 67(2), when he comes for a search, again with reason to believe, there he can seize all those 5 activities: lock a receptacle, seize, break open, he can do anything under 67(2).
Okay, so you mean to say that section 70 is what SRS is saying?
70, section 70 is summons. 70 is access.
talking about summons and statement.
Yes. Now in summons, it is a mockery of justice under GST law. The inspector issues summons. So I think the entire meaning of summons under GST law is diluted to such an extent that to get a normal piece of information, summons under section 70 has been issued. Summons under section 70, as Saiprasad was just telling me now, is a process of judicial proceedings, section 70. Now, when a summons under section 70 is issued, the officer or the person who is issuing summons acts as if he is a judge. Now, to issue a summons under section 70 to say, please give me inward supply details, please give me outward supply details, is a travesty of justice. So don't go by section 70, don't take it very seriously. Now Shankar sir was saying, I think Pradeep was saying in the morning, if I am right, I think your summons of 10,000 rupees penalty, if I am right. Huh?
So, especially central GST people, somebody they give a complaint against some particular person. So based on that complaint, they are issuing the summons straight away. So many of the clients are issued, saying that they provide all the inward, just like audit like things. What should you do now?
I was just telling Saiprasad 1 minute back about this complaint business. 1 minute back. So what is this complaint? Annapurna, she will go and talk to one joint commissioner casually over 1 cup of tea. She will tell, Sir, you are sir, Namma office bandibitidire avun nodi sir. This is what she has done. She has not done anything more than this. She is trying to get justice for her client by saying, Naan yenu madilla, avun marta idanu nodi sir alle. Now this becomes a cause for complaint. This will become a point which is recorded. Right? Reason to believe. So they will say, I have reason to believe that you are a builder or developer or contractor and you are not recording receipts in the normal course of business in a correct and verifiable manner. Therefore, I have reason to believe.
So Venkat sir,
This is what is done. Don't worry about that. He will ask you for details, give the details. In fact, if you go to Jatin, he will tell you don't give details. I am saying if we can give the details and put it to rest, might as well do it. Jatin will tell you don't give. let it come to 73, 74 stage, then we will take the matter. Choice is yours, but I will take you straight to the operation theatre until you finish, give, close, come back. That's it.
So, Venkat, what SRS told that in the income tax law, other than the assessing officer or in the during the course of a search, you can basically issue a summons. Right, sir?
Correct. Even
Here, even for the, can a non-assessing officer also issue you a summons in the GST law?
There are two classes of officers who can issue summons under the goods and service tax. A person who is acting in that whatever 70 section proper officer, superintendent. Now equivalent of superintendent under state GST law we don't know because there is no notification. If Shankar sir was there, he will say challenge that first. Luckily he is not there. Now we will put that to rest. We will see what to do later. Now that officer not below the rank of a super. I think there is some 2 bar 2020 sir. 3 bar? 3 bar, no, not 2 bar. 3 bar. So there is a circular which talks of superintendent. Okay, leave that aside. Now that officer can issue a summons. Now second, even under 67(1) you can get a summons. Now the travesty of justice is also 73 notice. When an audit is going on under 65, they are issuing summons and saying you please come and give me details. Section 65 cannot be a section 70 proceeding. It cannot be a section 70 proceeding. So you cannot get a summons. Now in the course of 67(1) and 67(2), 1A and 2, yes. And proviso 1 and proviso 2 of section 67 subsection 2, yes, you can get summons.
There's a question from a delegate and I'll ask this to Sai. Notice issued under section 74 of the CGST Act. Show cause notice raises penalty under section 122(2)A and 122(2)B and section 122(1). The offence is basically misclassification or misuse of an exemption notification. The the disclosures have been done, but basically there is a misclassification. Okay. So can they levy the penalty under all these 3 sections, 122(1), 122(2)A and 122(2)B, or it is only under one section?
Yes.
She's there here to address this query, or she's left?
The first point is of double jeopardy. You cannot prosecute a person for the you cannot prosecute a person for a same offence twice. That is point number 1. Point number 2, if a notice has been issued under 74, then 122(2)B only will apply. 122(2)A is for 73 notice because it is 10% of the tax payable, which is 73 notice. 122(2)B is 100% of tax payable, which is 74 notice. That is point number 1. However, the important point that we have to take here is, they said it was a notice on claiming exemption. It was a notice with respect to claiming exemption, no sir?
Yeah.
A notice with respect to claiming exemption is inherently, in my view, one relating to interpretation of the HSN or SAC. Am I eligible for the exemption under that HSN? Whether that falls under 1 of 17 taxable or 2 or 17 for goods, or 11 of 17 or 12 of 17 for services. It's essentially a question of interpretation of the entry. Once it's a question of interpretation of entry, the Supreme Court has clearly laid down that interpretational issues are not issues which is separation or fraud, but they are merely, if there is a difference, it is a difference of opinion. Correct. And the difference of opinion will not be treated as an omission or commission under 74, and hence the proceedings under 74 itself can be challenged.
So you can come back to 73.
Come back to 73. If by chance the proceedings goes in favor of the assessee, then maximum is 10% of the tax.
One question for SRS, sir. I have 2 questions. First one is, now suppose amendment to 148. After amendment to 148, after amendment to 148, now there is a deeming fiction created that in case of survey, it is deemed that there is an income escaping assessment. Now what if during the course of survey, there was no incriminating material found or there was no concealment of income found, whether the officer is justified in still issuing 148?
See, basically what happens is,
Mike's.
under section 148, a notice can be issued if the officer has information suggesting escapement of income, which is chargeable to tax. Explanation 1 says, under the following circumstances, there shall be deemed to be what is information means, information, what is the ABC based on RMS strategy, audit objection, etc. Then explanation 2, which deems that if a search takes place, a survey takes place, there is information suggesting escapement of tax. Once there is a deeming fiction on that, irrespective of the fact whether you have information, whether imperative materials are found or anything that happens either in a search or in a survey, he has to issue notice under 148, but it will be a defense for you in the assessment saying that there is nothing incriminating found and therefore there is no addition can be made. But the jurisdictional issue of notice under section 148 cannot be challenged. But the only question you can challenge is explanation 2 only on the ground that a search has not taken place, a survey has not taken place, an information has not come under section 135A, or an exchange of information between countries as provided under section 90 of the Income Tax Act, that is DTA, exchange of information, has not come. You can challenge those facts, but the moment the search takes place, the moment the survey takes place, there is a fiction that there is information available in the possession of the assessing officer, the income has escaped assessment. But anyway, this is an out of subject.
One more.
I'm running short of time actually.
One last.
Supplementary you will avoid on this, please.
You can take it offline after the session is over.
Yeah, I will answer your questions later on.
If you don't mind. One last question I would like to ask because we are running short of time also, and this is with regard to section 67(1), the expression to evade tax under the Act. Does it qualify only for the last limb of the contravention or the rule made or all limbs of section 67(1)(a)? Venkat sir. Yeah, it's for you only, addressed to you itself and raised by him also.
I was telling you at the beginning, you have to learn interpretation of law from messers. I learned this in my early days of my career during my talk. You look at section 67, subsection 1, clause A. There are only 2 punctuation marks in that question. Section 67, subsection 1, clause A. It says, relating to supply of goods or services on hand, goods in hand. After goods in hand, there is a comma, followed by a preposition and. Naveen, who is sitting here, will know how the punctuation marks are very important because in the Nandi Printers case, which is a reported case, now look at this punctuation mark here. This punctuation mark is generally called Oxford or Harvard comma. It was Oxford comma till 31/3/2020. Post 1/4/2020, it became Oxford and Harvard comma. Now, what is this Oxford and Harvard comma? An Oxford and Harvard comma actually splits a sentence into 2 parts. Now, there are 4 kinds of commas or classes of commas. One is a joining comma. It joins red comma, black comma, blue comma, green. So it joins. The second comma is listing comma. You list 8 mm steel, 12 mm steel, 14 mm steel. So you list, it is called a listing comma. The third is gapping comma. Now what is a gapping comma? When there are no relationship between the preceding words and the succeeding words. There is a gap. You can say steel and batteries. So you list it with a comma. The last one is bracketing comma, where you bracket all kinds of textiles, comma, all kinds of nylon fibers. So these are 4 commas. So when you look at this Oxford comma here, I think it is safe to interpret, very safe to interpret, that it applies only to the first part of the sentence. Now look at the ambiguity in this sentence, because it ends with evasion to tax or with an intent to evade tax. A taxable person who has suppressed any transaction relating to supply of goods or services abroad or stock in hand. Whereas the latter part of the sentence, which follows after the comma, relates to entitlement or availment of input tax credit, etc. So both are completely different classes of transactions. Therefore, it is an Oxford comma. Intent to evade tax will only be for the latter part.
The last thing only. Only the contravention of the act and
Yes.
We had decided to have a session of Mr. Saiprasad, but then because Mr. Shankar sir had to leave, then we started off with that session and all. I think we should justify his presence here. I would request Mr. Saiprasad to at least in 10 minutes sum up what he intended to say probably in an hour's time. I know I'm doing injustice to you, but our best can happen, at least we can take home much more. Rather than ask one or two questions and then we don't get the real answers. I think Saiprasad sir would basically give us the 10 minutes, a brief presentation on the same topic which he intended to speak, and probably focus more on the issues which we have still not covered in the deliberations here. Thank you, Saiprasad sir.
Thank you, sir. I'll be as brief as possible and probably close at 5:30. I think the point that was missed in our deliberation, the first concept could be on the constitutional principles. What I have got for you on the screen is, of course, this gentleman staring away at you is Lord Folk. I've already told about him. What I've got for you on the screen is the 4th Amendment to the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, by the way, the Constitution of America, the fundamental rights, Part 3 of the Constitution of India has been heavily borrowed from the US Constitution. Look at what the 4th Amendment to the Bill of Rights is. It's difficult to miss. It is specifically against search and seizures. The right of people to be secure in their persons, that is search against a dealer, houses, that is search of any place or business or premises, papers, that is documents or and effects, that is things, against unreasonable searches and seizures, which means it is a fundamental right in the United States of America against searches and seizures. The question is, do you have a fundamental right against search and seizure and in the Indian Constitution? That came to be answered for the first case, for the first time I think in 1954 in MP Sharma vs Satish Chandra. I think that's an 8-bench case, if I'm not wrong, wherein this point was brought out saying that that was a search and seizure, by the way, under the Companies Act, wherein they said that it's a violation of fundamental rights, and in that case they said it was a violation of Article 19(1)(f) and Article 31 of the Constitution. Now what is 19(1)(f)? 19(1)(f) is the right to hold and dispose of property. Similarly, 31 also gave the right to property. However,
I think most of you would be aware, by way of the 44th Amendment to the Constitution in 1978, this right to property was taken away as a fundamental right. And the Article 300 capital A got to be inserted. No person shall be, disturbed of his property except by authority of law. Which means right to property in the Indian context is no longer a fundamental right, but it's a constitutional right. Be that as it may, during 1954, that is when it was a fundamental right, the argument was when there is a search and seizure, there is a violation of this right to property, and hence the search and seizure by themselves are violative of Part 3, and so therefore the provisions relating to search and seizure are ultra vires. Wherein the judges said provisions relating to search and seizure are not ultra vires because one, you don't have a fundamental right like the 4th Amendment in the Indian Constitution. Point number 2, they said search and seizure by its effect are specific provisions bought either under the fiscal law or under the criminal law or under the company law to investigate defrauding people who are defrauding, and hence the right to privacy, which is an individual right, has to yield to the the word I'm not getting, to the benefit of public, what is the word I'm not getting? Larger public interest. And so therefore, even if you have physical or you are held up in a particular place or you are constrained, still that has to yield to public benefit. That is point number 1. Point number 2, which was a more important argument that they made, is fair enough. You don't have a specific fundamental right against search and seizure, but you have something called as Article 20 subclause 3, which is right against self-incrimination. That is specifically there in the Constitution. And so this is, by the way, called as the 5th Amendment to the Constitution, wherein they say that every person has a right against self-incrimination. So the argument for the Supreme Court was, in case of search and seizure, the documents, things that you are taking away, if you forcefully take it away from me, it is self-incrimination because those documents are there with me. If you ask me to part away with it, it is self-incrimination. For which the Supreme Court said, Article 20 subclause 3 is limited to custodial compulsions, wherein the Supreme Court said 20 subclause 3 will apply only to an accused, and a person becomes an accused only after an FIR has been filed. In case of search and seizure, you are not an accused. Because you are not an accused, Article 20 subclause 3 will not apply. Therefore, taking away documents, taking away things during seizure, even though it is incriminating, will not fall within the ambit of 20 subclause 3, and therefore they are legally permitted to be taken. These are the constitutional provisions as relating to search and seizure. One passing reference. In MP Sharma's case, they said it is right of privacy. Right of privacy, they said, was not a fundamental right in 1954. However, you have the Adar's case. In Adar's case, they said right of privacy is a fundamental right. But however, MP Sharma's case and Adar's case are on two different topics themselves. So therefore, though MP Sharma has been overruled, though I am quoting an overruled decision, by the way, Adar's case is a 9-bench judge. Though it is overruled case, I think those area of application is different. Have I finished 10 minutes? I have finished 10 minutes.
No, you have got 2 more minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay. Fine. I think this aspect I brought out to you, saying, bringing out as to the focus of when search and seizure is going to come. So it is not that you can directly jump into search and seizure like Venkataramani sir was saying. 2A, 3B is not matching, GST 1 and 3B are not matching. Those are not activities relating to cases where you have intention to evade taxes. And
those are cases where under 61 itself, under a scrutiny assessment itself, you will be able to find out that they are not matching. So 61 itself is dealing with it. You don't, the jurisdiction by implication is taken away for those kinds of cases. For example, you have availed blocked credits. For example, you have availed time barred credits. There is a difference between the outward and inward supply. Classification issues, valuation issues, taxability issues, interpretational issues, exemption issues. These are all issues which will not fall under search and seizure, which comes out from the wordings of 67(1) and 67 subsection 2. When can inspection be undertaken? I have covered this. They are separate set. When can search be undertaken? It is when search is where you have to get the material from the assessee which is useful for a proceedings. Please look at the wordings of 67 subsection 2. Whereas 67(1) is a case where they have reason to believe that you have suppressed either supplies or goods or ITC, or there is a contravention. Proper officer we have already talked of. We have also talked of the circular. What premises can be inspected, that also we have talked. It is to be particular, this has been covered. When inspection, this I have already talked of. Then what constitutes reason to believe? I think very detailedly we have talked as what constitutes reason to believe. One point we didn't cover. What we didn't cover is when we challenge these proceedings, the adequacy or the inadequacy of reason to believe, can that be challenged? The answer is no. Because reason to believe is subject to the person who is making that reason. And hence the court says, I cannot sit in the office of the AC, of the JC or ADC and say whether the reason to believe was correct or not. However, in case of reason to believe, can we say, I think it is over here. In case of reason to believe, can we say whether can the court sit in judgment as to the relevancy of the reason to believe? In reason to believe, when he notes down that reason must be one of the four under 67(1). That reason must be under 67 subsection 2. This goods or this document or these goods are liable for confiscation. That is the actionable material. That actionable material must have a nexus with the reason. Until and unless you have this actionable material, you can't simply say, Sir, Venkataramani sir ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಸಿಗತ್ತೆ. No, that is not reason to believe. That becomes arbitrary. You need to have an actionable material. Not only have action material, it must have a nexus for those points. Then and then only will you say that the reason for belief is relevant. Only if you discharge the burden of proof that it is relevant in a court of law, the proceedings will stand, or else the proceedings will not fall. Of course, this is also there in the Radhakrishnan decision of the Supreme Court. 165 CRPC we have already dealt with. 4 conditions of 61 we have dealt with. IN01 all times strict we have dealt with. That's all. I have got the
poisonous tree of dealt with.
Yes, this is we have finished. I think this is what is required. Thank you.
We have come to an end of the priest, I think. Okay, we can have a question and answer session for a minute. Please.
Naveen will ask yes or sir.
Who is asking?
Naveen has a question.
You are a fundamental right.
fundamental right to answer.
Not to.
Not to answer.
Yes, sir. Right to silence.
Right to silence, he says. 20 Article 23.
ಮುಂದೆ ಬಾ ಮೈಕ್ ತಗೋ.
Can you just
Does seizure tantamount to a transfer of title, transfer of ownership?
No, it doesn't transfer because seizure is different from confiscation. Seizure is different from confiscation. Confiscation can be done only where the 5 condition under 130 is satisfied. Seizure is only to identify the incriminating material. The property will always vest with the assessee. Once the notice has been issued, the goods has to be given back.
Yeah, so when provisionally goods are given back, can I subsequently sell it?
No, the provision very clearly states that one for provisional release, you have to give a bond for the value of goods, give a security for the tax, interest and penalty, and more importantly, the goods have to be produced back when it is asked. So no question of consumption or sale.
Can cash be seized?
Yes, cash can be seized. But however,
Just 1 second. But Naveen, don't stop there. You should not leave Saiprasad. You know what you should be telling him? Sir, I am a trader. I sell only batteries. I sell only parts. So I can sell. When the fellow comes, I have to show 100 batteries. I have to show 100. Sir, notice, sir, these are parts. But be careful. If you have a part number, you will be in difficulty.
sir, cash can be seized. However, if you look at 122 as to what can be appealed and what cannot be appealed, for him to give back, the words used is documents. However, with respect to things, you can file an appeal. Cash seized will be under things, and if it doesn't give you cash back, you can always go in appeal. And last point, cash you can always say is a consideration for receipt of supply, and by itself is not a item, and so therefore
I would like to very respectfully differ with Sai on this point. Cash cannot be seized under CGST Act. 67(2) does not permit it. An article or thing cannot be equated with a sum of money. If you look at the analogous provisions in the Income Tax Act, like section 68, 69, it uses the expression sum of money, article or thing or assets. Okay. These are different. Therefore, the article or even section 132, which deals with the search and seizure of the Income Tax Act, treats article or thing and sum of money separately. Therefore, according to me, what is equating the cash as equal to the proceeds of crimes under the PMLA Act. Similar to that. So the point is, according to me, cash cannot be seized under the CST, under the CGST. They don't fall under the definition.
Sir, but what they do, they tell police and they tell income tax people.
No,
Suppose having 2 crores.
no, there is a, let's be very clear on that. They can inform the income tax department, based on that, income tax department can issue as such. There is no problem on that. That is a different issue. But that even earlier, even in assessment, if, for instance, if in an excise adjudication proceeding they find there is some fraud, suppression, etc., which leads to evasion of tax, they inform the income tax department, saying that this is what happened. Based on that, either a search takes place or a reassessment takes place. So that is a separate procedure altogether. But with respect to Saiprasad, I will say that cash cannot be seized.
Sir, I agree with you. However, in Kanishka Matta versus Union of India, the Madhya Pradesh High Court has said things appear under 67 subsection 2 of CGST Act. Expression things covers within the meanings cash money with a conjoint reading of 2 subsection 17, 231, 2 sentence 67 subsection. However, sir, I agree with you. It will apply only to Madhya Pradesh and not to Karnataka.
What I would like to say is, with utmost respect to the lordships of Madhya Pradesh High Court, he doesn't agree with Madhya Pradesh High Court.
Yes, sir.
As of now, they do not know
The sum of money needs to be money. H.S. Sriramavama, 187.
Basically, the decision was on 80G.
Yes.
They have said very clearly.
H.S. Sriramavama, 187, 88,
Sum of money is always cash.
Yeah, the last question. 160 subsection 2. So 160 subsection 2. Which says that if the assessee participate in giving all the documents and everything with respect to the any communication notice or order, then I cannot challenge that communication notice and order at the earlier proceedings. Now, initially when the assessee has participated in giving all the documents and everything, then subsequently at the tribunal level or high court level, can I challenge those notices again?
Extremely difficult, Naveen. Extremely difficult. I don't know about income tax, but I can tell you, if you are challenging jurisdiction or the usage of element, you have to do it at the first available instance. You cannot say, receive a notice, then go on filing paper and documents, everything, and say, no, that was bad. Very difficult. Very difficult. Although I can't say an yes or no to it, but you have a tough case.
73(9) has a similar provision connected to 120.
Just one point I will add before. See, basically, what happens under the Income Tax Act, there is a similar provision, but there is an exception to that. The exception is that you can question the validity of a notice during the assessment proceeding, saying that your 143 notice has not been issued within time, it has not been issued by the proper jurisdiction officer, and still participate. And just because after objecting, if you participate, there you are right to question that in appeal does not vanish. I feel that though 160 subsection 2 does not in so many words say that fundamental principle should permeate here also, saying that if you object it first to the issue of notice, you can challenge it in appeal later. But only question is, normally, see, there are decisions also which say that in case of a jurisdiction, it can be raised at any stage of the proceedings. The courts also held that it says that they can't do that. So, but subject to specific constraints. So 162, I would rather read it down to say that if you objected and still participated, your right is not lost.
Just to add, what Venkateshan sir taught all of us on that, what Venkateshan sir taught us on this particular provision to say whether we participate or not. He was only telling us one thing: write a letter, say you object to it, give details. The officer will come back and ask you, why, if you are object, why did you comment? Again, give the details or appear before me. My lordship, I came before you every single time to tell you that you have no jurisdiction. Therefore, my participation in every proceeding is only to remind you that you have no jurisdiction. I am telling you, I am cautioning you. So therefore, at the end of it, 10 hearings later, when the officer passes an order against, we would have had 10 objections. Right? Every letter would start with, without prejudice to my rights in law. On top, the heading of the letter will be without prejudice. So whatever you write there thereafter, it is to our benefit. This is what we have learned from Venkateshan sir, probably I can say at his feet.
According to Venkateshan, even if you tell your name, address and age, it is without prejudice.
May I ask that question, sir?
Yeah, please.
So 73(9) has a direct connect to one. I mean, it's similarly worded to 122(2)A, and 74(8) is similarly worded to 122(2)B. Are both mutually exclusive, or why a similar penalty provision is there in both the places? And or is it like 122 is only a prescription provision where ultimately the determination will come back to 74? Because there is a higher limit also specified in 73(9) and 74(8).
73 and 74 are machinery, with this in mind. Correct. 73 and 74 are machinery provisions.
Just more one. No, I'm just suggesting. You please explain the provision and then answer that. Because many people may not know
What madam is referring to is the penalty that is to be levied. Under 73, the penalty to be levied maximum is 10% of the taxes. Under 74, the penalty to be levied is 100% of taxes. 73(9) and 74 is the provisions is referring to. Same penalties are referred to under 122(2)A and 2B. 122(2)A is 10% penalty. 122(2)B is penalty equivalent to tax. So therefore, why these separate duplication? This is my understanding. First, there must be a provision to derive power to impose penalty.
you do these things, then I have a power to impose penalty. That I think comes from 122. After that, there must be a machinery provision which says that in these cases this quantum of penalty, in this case this quantum of penalty. I would draw my inference from the Finance Act 1994 for service tax, wherein the machinery provision is under 73, the penalty provision under 77 and 78. 77 is equivalent to 73, 78 under Finance Act 94 is equivalent to 74. So, similarly under Excise Act, 11AC is the penalty provision, 11A is the demand provision. So, 73 and 74 are self-contained demand provisions. However, the demand provisions also contain the quantum of penalty. But the authority to impose power, there must be a section which says I will impose power. I think that is coming from 122. This is my understanding.
But 74(1) also has that reference to penalty, no? So the
It has
conclusion line
reference,
also-
but is the source to impose penalty coming from 73 or 74? 73 and 74 only says if you are short paid, not paid, or excess refund claim, or ITC, then you shall.
So in fact, 122(1) is about penalty for taxable person, 122(1) is for the mastermind, 122(2) is for the registered person, and 122(3) is for any person. But in coming back to 73, it is again
person,
any
73 is
person.
77 for
So
any person.
when there are 4 varieties of penalties under 122 and only a similar provision of 122(2) is adopted in 73(8), is there a specific reason or one overrides the other, or how does that statutorily work, sir? That is it.
73, 122, 1 states what are all the various 21 cases where penalty shall be levied. 1A says for first to 3, 4 clauses, if another person is getting the benefit, he shall also be liable. 122 is stating the quantum of penalty. 123 is talking of who are the other persons also who will be liable for penalty. So therefore, 122 is essentially a section which is saying in what all cases penalty shall be levied. 73 and 74 in my view is saying when I issue a notice and the notice is for this specific cases, what shall be the penalty when there is suppression, what shall be the penalty that when there is no suppression. It is only stating the quantum of penalty to be imposed. Where is the source to impose that quantum? The source to impose that quantum is coming from 122, is the best harmonious construction that I can give you.
So if there is a notice having only 73(9), notice with having 73(9) without reference to 122, does it become invalid?
The courts have held merely if you don't give a reference to a notice number, that will not violate the notice as long as you have canvassed the allegation. So omission to mention 122 will not be fatal to the notice in my view.
Basically 73, 74 are adjudication proceedings. They are machinery sections to effectuate the payment of tax, interest and penalty in appropriate cases. So either 73(8) which says that you don't have to pay penalty to pay the tax within judgment, or 73(9) or 74(9) which there is, but they don't define the quantum of penalty that comes under 122 only. So therefore there is a mere machinery provision and adjudication provision determining the demand, as I said.
But 73(9) quantified, sir. Penalty.
No, that is not in contradiction to 122.
Correct, sir. It is in harmony with both.
They are in harmony with that.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, just because it quantifies that, it doesn't mean that it is charging section for penalty. Charging section for penalty is 122. 73 and 74 are the machinery section to effectuate the penalty through an adjudication process.
Thank you.
Sir, as a small addition to what you're saying, while I don't disagree with them. While I don't disagree with them.
You can only contradict me.
I'm not contradicting. If you look at the statement of objects and reasons when the GST came into the statute book in 2017, I think the model GST law, June 2016, June 12, 2016, if you look at that, read the equivalent provision of 122. There it was clear. and go back to the statement of objects and reasons which was there. Now essentially, sir, 122 and 122.1.2, etc., etc. The object of that was a case where material was found which was not used for the purpose of filing your returns. They said this provision is required when we are finding concealment, right? And those documents are not forming part and parcel of your returns and information that is filed. Then you will have to use 122. To that limited extent, I agree with you that 73.9 and 122.2, whatever, small a and b, are similar, but they are not same. If you go back to the statement of objects and reasons, right? That's all. Thank you. Yes, madam.
So two things. An inspection proceeding has been commenced in the year 2021 Jan, and still the officer every 3 months once he seeks for additional details. That is one case. Another case, inspection proceedings has begun. In both cases, the taxpayer, the assessor has submitted comprehensive response to whatever his observation was during the inspection proceedings. In one case, he is still, I don't know, it is still under process. The second case, when he went for an update, he said that he is in agreement to whatever submissions that we have made, and that he believes that we have not made any evasion of taxes. So in either of the cases, the assessee is not having any document or a report which is giving a conclusion to this entire proceeding. Eventually, in the second scenario, when another assessing officer conducts an audit or issues another notice for the same issue, what proof can I submit to the officer that this matter has already been taken up and some sort of conclusion has already been achieved?
You want a practical answer or legal answer?
Both. First the practical and the next legal.
Which is practically legal.
There are two ways of looking at this. If you really want to take the department head on, file an application under RTA, will you? Make an application under RTA, pay an advocate X fees, file an application, you will get it. This is option one. Option two, the presumption is that if you haven't got notice for a long period of time, the matter rests. This is the presumption, but it need not be a case, because 74 talks of 5 years from the due date of filing the annual return or something like that, right? 5 years, right? 5 years. 5 years. So technically that is the limitation period he has, because he can charge you with 74 and not with 73. So the limitation, if you want this case to attain finality, or if you want to figure out what has that man done, file an RTA application. Either he will take it and issue summons, or alternatively, he will tell you, I have transferred this file. Now they still have that A category, A plus category, all this. So he will put you under A plus and send you to audit under 65, which means the file remains closed there. It will get open for audit under section 65. Now between the two files that we are talking of, you take a different opinion for a different file on a similar set of facts. No two set of facts will be the same. They will be similar, but they will not be the same. So he can have an independent view on that matter, depends on how well you satisfy the proper officer.
So in the case that he is satisfied, I am talking in a case in a way he is in agreement that yes, I am in agreement, your submissions are quite comprehensive, there is no evasion of payment of tax. Now my worry is this file get transferred to another set of officers and he is not in agreement with this officer. So what proof do I have that
You don't need to do anything, you just sit quiet, that's all. Because when there are two sets of officers who are incapable of deciding on an issue similarly, it will go to the next, it will generally be commissioner who takes a decision on that.
Principles of agenda.
Yeah, commissioner takes a view on that. Till then you don't need to do anything, you don't go to him, you keep quiet, that's all. Okay? Thanks. Fee may be a problem, you deal with that separately.
Thank you, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank the panelists who made it very convenient to attend this panel today, and of course, thanks to Saiprasad as well, to convince them and, to bring them all together at one place. C.A. Ramasubramanian, sir. Mask.
Oh, yeah. Unmasked.
Excellent questions that came.
C. Venkataramani, sir. C. Sanjay, sir. Saiprasad, sir. Thank you for the wonderful session, sir. I think the post-lunch session which I mentioned earlier today, we didn't feel it was a post-lunch session, and I think the participants thoroughly enjoyed and everyone were glued to the panel discussion. And of course, this is for the participants. Please do come in a large number for all the seminars which we conduct and make it a grand success. Thank you, everyone.